Yahweh, the one true God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, he says, I overthrew some of you as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. You were the brand plucked out of the burning, yet you did not return to me, declares Yahweh. So Yahweh is referring to the Yahweh who destroys.
How many Yahwehs do you believe in?
There's three persons.
No, how many Yahwehs do you believe in?
There's three persons.
Yahweh
is the name for
God. You're changing the words
Yahweh
now. No, answer the question as I asked you. How many Yahwehs do you believe in?
There's one Yahweh.
Thank you very much. How many Yahwehs did you read over there?
So here it says that Yahweh says God overthrew. So
Yahweh says to whom?
Yahweh
says to whom?
Saying to the Israelites.
No, wait. Yahweh says to whom? You said two. You mentioned two Yahwehs in there.
I overthrew some of you as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, who overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yeah.
In Genesis 19.
Is that Yahweh?
Yeah, in Genesis 19 it tells us that Yahweh called down fire and brimstone from Yahweh in heaven.
So how many Yahwehs are there?
So there's one Yahweh because there's one essence.
You just mentioned two Yahwehs.
But there's one essence.
You see, he changed the topic. He changed the word again, essence.
Change the word.
As soon as I asked how many Yahwehs, you said, wait. As soon as I asked you how many Yahwehs, you said one Yahweh. And then when you read it, you mentioned two Yahwehs. Why do you guys, why this smokes and mirrors? This is what the Pharisees used to do. They used to change the words from its right places.
You said go to the Bible, and there's the Bible verse.
Okay.
Where Yahweh says it was God.
No problem. As long as you believe in one Yahweh, I'm okay with that. But as soon as you say there are two Yahwehs, then you're a polytheist.
So then the Genesis 19:19 says that Yahweh called down fire and sulfur from Yahweh in heaven.
Okay.
Obadiah 1 says Yahweh received a report from Yahweh.
So you guys are polytheists then if you believe more than one Yahweh.
Why didn't Allah say we was polytheists?
Wait.
Why didn't Allah say that?
Actually, Allah does say that people. No. It says the people like the Christians. If you read in chapter 4, Surah An-Nisa 171, it tells you do not say three. It tells you that Jesus is not the Son of God. He is but a messenger of God. Now wait. When by the testimony of Jesus himself, which I just read earlier, John 17:3. Yes, according to John 17:3, who is the only true God?
Who is the closest to Muslims of Jews?
Look, I answered your question. Can you answer my question? Who is the only true God according to John 17:3? You can read it.
That's why I brought up that Amos.
No, but
Jesus
answer the question, but based on John 17:3.
Jesus refers to the Father as the only true God, in the same way that we know from Amos 4:11 that Yahweh is the only one true God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, and yet Yahweh says it was God.
Okay. If Jesus is saying the only true God is the Father,
yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Good. When he says only true God, it excludes everyone else as the only true God.
But why doesn't
wait. Let's stick. Don't try to twist even the English language.
No, I'm not
Good.
twisting. I'm going straight from the Bible.
Good. So now, if the only true God is the Father, how many persons is the Father?
The Father is the first person of the Trinity.
How many persons is he?
The first person.
How many persons is he? How many persons is he?
Yeah.
One or more than one?
The one first person.
Good. So he's only one person, the Father. According to Jesus, that is the only true God. Let me finish. The term Yahweh is not there in the New Testament, so you can't bring that argument.
The Greek translates it. Kyrios.
The Greek translation of Kyrios is only for God, not Yahweh. Okay, so don't, because you know who's called Kyrios in the Bible? The Satan. Unless you're telling me that Satan is Yahweh now.
Where's Satan? Kyrios?
Satan is called Kyrios in the Bible.
A lord, a lowercase.
No, God, G-O-D, God. There's no lowercase in the ancient Greek. So don't bring all this nonsense. We have dealt with all of that before. The question still remains, if Jesus is saying the only true God is one person, the Father...
So we've answered that.
No, you haven't.
Yeah,
you haven't.
There's only one.
Yeah, but you have to. Do you realize what that means? If there's only one person...
I just showed you where the one person says that the Trinity is God. So
it doesn't say, no person says the Trinity is God.
Yahweh says that it was God that overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, we know from Genesis 19 that it was Yahweh.
So if the Father is the only true God, how many persons is the Father? One person, right?
The Father is the first person.
And he's one person.
But any one person...
Wait, let me finish at least. Let me finish my thought. You keep interrupting.
Go on.
Okay, if the Father is only one person, and he's the first person of the Trinity, and Jesus says only him, he is the only true God. You know this title of only true God applies to only one of those three persons from the Trinity. And that is the Father. Yes, that is what he says in John 17:3. That's why you don't want to open that passage.
We've opened it.
You open it and tell me why you're saying no.
That's because of Amos 4.
Amos got nothing to do with John 17:3.
Yes, it has.
No, it hasn't.
It has because
no, you're the one making the connection.
No, it shows you. No, because Amos says it. Amos is the prophet.
Which is the words of Jesus? John 17:3 or Amos?
Amos is the prophet.
No. Which are the words of Jesus? John 17:3 or Amos? The words of Jesus.
17:3.
Good.
Yeah.
So you're ignoring Jesus' words. Because it sits well with you to ignore Jesus' teaching.
no. All
Yes,
Jesus' words are
That's
true.
why. Okay, so you agree that the only true God is the Father, one person.
As Jesus was talking, he said the only true God is the Father.
Thank you.
What I've shown you is that the only true God says that God can speak of the Trinity as God. So Jesus is talking to the Father as the Trinity.
Is one person equal to three persons?
One person is one person.
Thank you. If Jesus is telling you only one person is God, why are you saying three?
He's using the Father as the Trinity.
He never said Trinity.
No, he
Stop
didn't say Trinity, but we know
Stop
from the
interjecting your words into the Bible.
We know from the Old Testament, it's the Bible words, not my words, it's the Bible prophets.
You know in John 3:16, what does Jesus say?
3:16.
This is one of the most important passages in the
God
Bible.
so loved, because you're jumping around. Because I want to get
Actually, you're the one jumping to Amos
I want to get
because he
back
doesn't
to the
agree with
question
you.
Because I've noticed you're quite good at sort of dancing around.
No. In fact, I stopped you every
time
time you kept dancing
we started
around the
death,
passage.
and now somehow you're going on to all these.
We
other
have to because
passages.
God is the ultimate truth we want to know.
So we're going to get back to that because
Okay.
I'm challenging what you believe about death, that Allah created.
No, before
death.
you go that, answer
that's
the
what we
question. Wait.
started with.
John 3:16 says what?
John says that God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall
What does
not perish
only
but have
son mean in
eternal
that
life.
context? Does it mean he has other sons?
The only son is like you were talking to my friend there about Isaac and Ishmael.
No. Does
Who
only
was-
son mean other sons or not?
Only son means that is the old Hebrew word is the bereshit, the one who carries the title. That's why Isaac is described as the only son, although we know biologically.
How many sons are
Ishmael.
only son mean?
It means the bereshit.
No, I know, but in John 3:16, does it mean whom is it referring to in John 3:16?
To Jesus, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Jesus is whose son, according to you?
Son of God.
Good. Does God have more than one son?
No.
Thank you. So how many sons is it?
So Jesus, one son. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
So
the
in
son.
John 3:16, it's referring to only one son. No dancing around now, right?
In John 3,
Which you just read.
16, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's only one son, and that is Jesus.
Trying to work out where you're going. Yeah.
I think it's very
that's
simple
right.
logic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, you don't need
Yeah,
a,
there's one
degree,
son.
a PhD
Yeah.
for this. So if it's only one son, and the term only there is exclusive, isn't it?
Yes.
That means every other son, even though there are more than one sons of God in the Bible, it excludes everyone except Jesus.
Yes.
Am I right so far?
Yeah.
Good. Now when John 17:3, Jesus says, He alone, this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God. Okay?
Yes.
You here is referring to whom? You, the only true God.
Referring to the Father, yeah.
Father, very good.
Yeah.
Father is one person?
Yes.
Good, not three persons.
But it can be
Don't give me
used-
buts, just answer the question.
It can be.
No,
that's why I showed you
don't
Amos.
confuse it. If
That's why I
the
showed
Father,
from the
look, it's very
Bible.
simple. The Father is only one person. Okay? Let's agree with that because you cannot escape from this. Just like you say, Jesus is the only Son.
God is only one.
No, I know you like the term God. That's why you use the term Father.
Is God
Is
one?
Father one person or not?
Is God one or not?
For me, it's one, but
Well,
for
of
you, it's
course.
3 in 1.
Yeah, and Amos
That's what I'm
says-
trying to
and
understand from
Amos
you.
says- so
No,
Amos is
don't
explaining
jump.
how God
You see,
refers
now you're
to God
dancing to
as
Amos
God.
again. John
It's his
3:16.
explanation of the word.
John 3:16. The only true God. If it's only one true God, and that is the Father, one person, why you keep saying 3 persons? Why do you go against
God
Jesus'
is the
testimony?
Father, it can refer to the Trinity.
No Trinity mentioned in the entire Bible.
No, not by name, but that's
Even
what the
by
Bible tells
concept.
us.
Even by
So now
concept.
can we go back to your death about...
Oh, so now you have lost the Trinity.
no,
Let's go to
I've
the death.
answered it.
No problem. No,
It's
you
going
haven't.
round in circles.
Okay, we'll let the people judge
Yeah.
who is right. Because I'm
Amos-
saying, according to John 17:3, let me summarize that. According to John 17:3, the only true God is the Father, one person. He's saying God is 3 persons. I'm not saying that. Nowhere in the entire Bible does it say God is 3 persons. This is from the 4th century, from the church doctrine, not from Jesus or from any prophet in the Bible. Good.
And I just sum up that what you said was, what you're implying is that Jesus cannot refer to God as God as being the Trinity, whereas Amos tells
never
us
said
quite
the Trinity.
clearly. Amos tells us quite clearly
Yeah.
that God says that, that Yahweh says it was God who overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, yet the people did not return.
That's got nothing to do with John 17:3.
It shows
You see how we evaded John 17:3?
No.
Because it goes against the Trinity.
John-
I call this the kryptonite of the Trinitarians.
John
That's the reason
17:3
they will make every effort to evade it, and they will go to something completely irrelevant. If you ask me, the Father is one person,
only God.
not 3 persons. If Jesus says the only true God is the Father, has this title of only the only true God has been given to anyone other than the Father? The only true God.
No.
Good.
But who's the only?
What does that mean?
Hang on. Who's the only true Son?
Who's the only true Son? According to you or me? I don't.
According to
My
the
God
Bible.
doesn't need a son.
According to the Bible, who's the only true son?
According to the Bible, is Jesus.
Jesus. So there
I'm
you
not
are.
disputing that.
So we're saying that Jesus is the only true son of God.
Yes, but he's not the only true God.
But it doesn't say. It says he's the only Father.
Who is
It
the only
says
Father?
The Father is the
Yes.
true God. So the Son is the true
you,
God.
in fact, you
That
agree
makes
that
no difference.
that the title of only true God is not given to the Son, but only to the Father.
The
So we are in agreement.
No, the title true God.
Only true God is only given to the Father, not the Son.
Those words, but that's where Amos tells
But that
us
is the most
God
important
can call-
title, the only true God. How many only true gods do you believe in?
There's only one true God.
And who is that?
God.
According to Jesus, who is that?
God.
Which God?
The Trinity.
Where does it say that in the Bible?
When we have passages like Genesis where it says Yahweh called down fire from Yahweh in heaven, Yahweh received a report from Yahweh.
So wait.
Yahweh
Yahweh
said-
received fire from the Yahweh in the heaven.
Yeah.
How many Yahwehs are there?
That's it. There's only one God.
No, how many Yahwehs?
So the Bible refers
How many
to
Yahwehs?
two.
Answer the
So
question.
the Bible
Why are you
says
evading it? How many Yahwehs? The Yahweh received fire from the Yahweh in heaven.
Yahweh is
How
the
many
name-
Yahwehs are there?
Yahweh is the name for God.
How many Yahwehs are there? In the
There's
passage
only
you just
one
quoted.
God, but you
No,
quote
you
the
see, you
three
keep
persons.
switching. Have you noticed this? When I use the term Yahweh, he switches
You
to
notice
God.
he keeps
When I say
interrupting
Father,
me.
he switches to Yahweh.
You notice he
This
keeps
is what he does.
interrupting.
This is exactly what the Pharisees did.
Yahweh is the name for God.
It's not the name of God.
It is.
Why did Jesus never use it in the New Testament?
Because we got it from Greek.
So you're saying you didn't get it from Jesus?
Yeah, we got it from Jesus through the
So why did
translation of
Jesus
Greek.
never use
Now
it?
You're jumping around
Wait.
again. You're jumping
Who gave
around
them the
again.
right to remove God's name?
Their language that they spoke in.
Who gave them the right?
That
The name
they
Abraham is there.
conveyed-
The name Jesus is there. The name Moses is there. But they removed God's name. Who gave them the right?
Because the Jews never put God's name in because they always
It is
say
6,000 times in the Old Testament. What do you mean?
yeah, but the Jews are not allowed to pronounce that.
I didn't
name.
ask you about pronouncing.
So
I asked you about a written word.
Sorry?
Why did no one write the name of God in the New Testament?
Because it was the tradition that you should not take
Whose
God's name
tradition?
in vain. The Jews.
No. The Jews wrote it. Look, I don't know. Either you have a problem understanding a simple language I'm using. The term Yahweh, is it written in the Old Testament?
For the Christian in Septuagint, it was yes in the Greek.
No, in the Hebrew as
the-
well. The term Yahweh is Hebrew, not Greek.
In the Hebrew,
Yes.
I don't know about the Hebrew.
Yes, the Hebrew.
Modern Hebrew
Both
is rabbinic
the
Hebrew.
term Hebrew, the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament does have the term Yahweh mentioned nearly 7,000 times. How many times?
Is that actual Yahweh or is it?
It is Yahweh, not a
the
substitution.
Tetragrammaton?
It's not a substitution. Yahweh is the Tetragrammaton.
Yeah, but
Don't
that's
try to
only-
confuse me.
That's only the letters. That's not the full name.
Dude, that is what the Yahweh is a Tetragrammaton.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's only the full.
I know, but is it there in the Old Testament?
The Tetragrammaton is yes.
Good. Is
Yeah.
the Tetragrammaton in the New Testament?
In the sense of ego emity, which is
Ego Eimi is not Yahweh.
That's the way the Greeks
Ego Eimi is
translate it.
not Yahweh.
That's the way. the
It's
Greeks
not
translate-
Yahweh.
Yes,
Stop.
it is.
Stop doing that.
It's the way.
No,
that
there's
you've got a
there's
different
no
language.
one from the Hebrew-speaking world will tell you that Ego Eimi, which is a Greek terminology, is Yahweh.
For
But anyway,
I am.
I think look, we have agreed on one thing that
So we don't
You-
want to go to Islam concept of death.
no, we did already.
Allah Quran.
We did already. We did. By the way,
Okay.
if any one of you interrupts, no Muslims are interrupting here. If any of these Christians interrupt, I'm going to stop the discussion. So they can't say I ran away. Okay, that's a condition. Yeah, that's a condition. Oh yeah, we're terrified of you. How nice. Okay? If they interrupt, I stop the conversation. So it's up to you to carry on or stop here. Shall we stop you? Or shall we go somewhere else?
What do you want to move? You got everything set up.
I'm saying the Christians will interrupt, the Muslims will not.
But they're
Okay.
standing there quietly. They're behind me. You can't even see them.
Yeah, until now.
I didn't even know they was there
Yeah.
until you told
That's
me.
why I
they
said
were there.
until they interrupt, I'll continue.
Right, okay.
Okay,
yeah.
as soon as they interrupt, sorry, until they don't interrupt, I'll continue.
Yeah.
As soon as they interrupt, then we stop. And we can go somewhere else, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, in fact, let's go somewhere else.
So
Just one sec. Brother, come here. We are going another place. No, not finished. Thank you very much. Jazakallah. Let's go somewhere quieter. By the way, I didn't catch your name.
Vince.
Vince, nice meeting you, Vince.
Yes, that's you.
Sorry, it does get a bit passionate, so I don't mean to like,
Well, I mean that's fine. If
I don't
we don't
mean-
have passion in our religion.
yeah.
If we don't, then we're probably not worth it.
That's true. Yeah. So my raising my voice is not out of disrespect; it's just passion.
Well, that's why I don't take part in a lot of these big group
I
ones.
understand.
I understand what you mean about others there, because
Yeah.
when you were talking to that chap, I was desperate to join in,
Yeah.
but out of respect, you're having a conversation with him. He's answering for himself, so I've got to allow him to answer. So I try to avoid
That's good.
interrupting, jumping in.
No problem.
But there was lots of things, and one of the things was about the concept.
It's okay.
The concept.
As long as they don't interrupt, we don't mind. Yeah.
The concept of death.
Yeah.
As you correctly said, it's a separation. You said soul and body.
Separation of the soul from the body.
Spirit and body.
Yeah.
So in the hypostatic union, because Jesus is there in the spirit, he can experience the death in the spirit. It's the flesh that dies. So God doesn't die in the way we a nihilistic understanding of death would be.
God doesn't die in any concept. In any context.
He can experience death in the way your spirit can experience death, in the way my spirit experiences it. Our flesh goes to the grave and rots.
Our spirit don't cease to exist. Our spirits don't cease to exist.
Exactly.
So let's say if your soul separates from your body, would you consider that to be death?
If my soul is separated from the body, that's death.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by that definition of death, would you become immortal or mortal?
It depends what God's got in store for me.
I'm asking about you.
So it depends
Based on that definition, okay, how do you define immortal?
In the absence of death. With the absence of
Not
death.
subject to death.
Yeah.
Is that a better definition?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So are you subject to that?
My flesh is, yes. My flesh. And then
No,
then
you.
my
No,
spirit-
you as a person.
Yeah, I am spirit
I'm not
and
asking.
flesh.
Look, once again, I'm not asking about the who. Sorry, I'm not asking about the what, which is your nature, your spirit, your flesh, and all that. My question is not about the what; it's about the who. Do you understand the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the what are your natures, like spirit, body, so on, soul,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
this.
yeah.
All this is your nature. I'm asking about you as a person, the who.
The who.
Yes, so for
So
example,
in that sense-
if someone from our family dies, they don't say his flesh died, do they? They say that person with that name died. Do you understand? And that is the who. So now my question is, when you die, who dies?
So in that theological sense, that, because you're saying it's about who,
It's about the
and
who,
it's
yeah.
about I am made of spirit and flesh, then you would say no one died because I'm standing on the other side of death, waiting for judgment, just like you.
Yeah.
So we have both transcended death.
Guys, no need to argue. It's unnecessary.
So we have both transcended death, but only in our spirit. And you're saying you're not accepting that division. But
I'm
I
saying based on the definition which you gave of death, you are mortal, and I am mortal.
flesh is mortal, yeah.
We are mortal. We
Our
humans
spirit-
are mortal. The only one who is immortal is who?
God. So
No,
when-
wait. That's a very good answer, actually. If the only one who is immortal is God,
until He gives us all
wait
immortality.
a minute. If the only one, there's no unless. We are not talking, immortal means in all respect. I'm not talking about just the future. I'm talking about since existence. We are mortal since
So
we
I
were
wouldn't
created.
agree. I wouldn't agree with that
Okay,
definition.
were you ever immortal?
So the way I would understand immortality is you have to have a life first in order to, you have to have an existence first.
No, that's called eternal. You're mixing up the terminology.
Well, that's the other way I would go. I would
No,
say
the
that's
term immortal
eternity.
only means not subject to that.
Eternity, I would say, is
The
one that
term
works both
immortal
ways.
only means not
I
subject
think
to
it's
that.
just a slight difference of agreement on
No, I
the
think you're
accepted
mixing up
word.
eternal and immortal.
Eternal for me is the one that goes both ways.
Yes.
Immortal means you have to have a life to start and then become immortal.
Yeah, after
So
your
we are created beings. We can become immortal when God gives us the immortality.
Okay, so when in 1 Timothy when it says the only immortal is God, the only one who's immortal is God. How would you define the immortal in that context? 1 Timothy
look.
6:16. He alone is immortal. How would you define the term immortal in that context? Any different to your immortal, which you said only future immortality?
1 Timothy, what one?
1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 16.
So, which he will display at the proper time. He who is blessed and only sovereign, the King of kings and Lord of lords, who alone has immortality, who dwells in unapproachable light, who no one has ever seen or can see. To him be honour and eternal dominion.
Yeah. So when he says he only has immortality, in that context, how would you define the term immortal? He only means only he has immortality. How would you define immortal in that context?
Hang on, let me just.
Yeah, you can look up all versions of the Bible. They all say the same thing. No problem. You can go to Bible Hub for that to compare parallel comparison. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse number 16.
6:16.
1 Timothy 6, 16.
Immortality. So this is deathlessness, immortality from the Greek.
He alone has immortality. What does that mean?
Yeah. So he has is deathlessness without death.
Good.
So
Now wait, when he says he alone, that means exclusive once again, yeah? Exclusive. He alone means it excludes everybody
in
else.
the context in which the writers are writing to the people, they're telling
Yeah, of
them
course.
that in your state, you don't have. The only one who has immortality at the moment.
In that version, in
is
that
God.
verse which you just read, who is the only one who is immortal?
God, until the resurrection day,
Good.
when God
So
clothes
God the
us with
Father is the only one who's
immortality,
immortal, yeah? God the Father.
until judgment day. Yeah.
I'm not talking about the judgment day. You see, this is a problem. When the Bible is not talking about the judgment day, you're bringing in unnecessary details which we didn't ask you for.
You are coming to a certain point that I'm trying to head off by telling you that we will all become immortal when God clothes us with
Which is not the point I'm making. I'm talking about this verse.
So what's the problem with that?
The problem here is that this verse is talking about one entity who alone is immortal. Who is that entity?
That's God. When
Good, so it's God the Father, yeah?
Timothy's talking,
God the Father.
Yeah.
God the Father
God,
is
the essence of
no,
God.
no. God the Father is the only one who's immortal.
Yeah, as Timothy is talking to the people,
Hold on,
in their
it doesn't
flesh,
matter. It doesn't
in
matter.
their sin.
So
he's
it's only
telling
God the Father. Do we agree so far?
Well, I don't like your term, only God the Father.
It says there only God, only.
Yeah, but you're
so if it
trying
says
to,
only God is immortal,
only God.
yes.
Yeah.
According to you, Jesus died, right? So it can't be Jesus.
Jesus died in the flesh, not the
Do
spirit.
you die in the flesh?
I die in the flesh.
Good. So you're also immortal then, according to your definition.
Because we will go to judgment.
I'm not going to judgment. Remember, I said about the who. You keep going to the judgment. When I'm not asking about the judgment, I'm talking about this particular passage. Just like the term, he alone is immortal. Just like the term, the only son. The only begotten son is Jesus. Just like the only true God is the Father. In all of this, there is one common term, which is only. When you say only, so if I said the only person who has a bag is, sorry, I forgot your name. Vince. It's Vince. Does that mean anybody else has a bag?
I gave you an example of that in the Jewish Bereshit, where Isaac is the only son of Abraham, when we know Ishmael was already his son, and yet the Bible says he's his only
In the Bible,
son.
it never says Isaac is the only son.
Yes,
it never says that. Show me. Show me where it says he's the only son.
Your only son Isaac, it says. Your
Ah.
only son Isaac.
No. Show me where it says Abraham
Hang on, this might
Isaac
take me a
was
little
the
while,
only
'cause this is
son
the Old
of
Testament.
Abraham. Because it doesn't say that. If Jesus is saying, sorry, if the Bible is saying that he alone is immortal, means only God is immortal, God the Father. Because clearly, according to you, Jesus died on the cross. So he can't be immortal. Okay, it's a very clear message. I don't know why we are complicating it, because I think the reason you want to complicate it, because that's the only way to make sense of Jesus being God. Otherwise, he's disqualified as God.
Genesis 22:2. He said, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I will tell you." So Isaac is his only son, but
Now,
we know biologically he also had Ishmael.
So how come then God made a mistake?
No, because there's a title called the Bereshit. It's a title of inheritance.
What does Bereshit mean?
This means that in the beginning, so it comes from the beginning of the Bible.
No, wait. So is it right that Abraham had only Isaac as the son?
In terms of the legal definition of who gets the double portion of inheritance, who is the one who goes forward with a name.
Okay, so now you have introduced not only inconsistency by...
No, it's not. There's nothing inconsistent.
You answer, let me answer. The inconsistency is that Abraham did not have only Isaac as the only son. Because before Isaac, Ishmael was there. And it very clearly says Hagar was his wife in the Bible. If Hagar was the wife of Abraham and Ishmael is the first son of Abraham, clearly Abraham is also his son. So if the Bible says that he's your only son Isaac, then it's incorrect. Second thing, you mentioned the inheritance. Who gets the inheritance according to the Mosaic law?
Let's go back to the understanding.
Sorry, according to the Jewish law.
It's the son who's given the
but we are talking
blessing.
About, no, we're
this
talking
is
about
how Isaac still
who's given
Esau sells his blessing to
is Bereshit from the Mosaic law?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah,
wait. How does it apply to Abraham? Because Moses didn't come out until much later.
It comes from the start of the Bible, Genesis.
No. How does it apply to Abraham? That was the question. Was the Torah revealed in the time of Abraham and Isaac?
No, but God.
Good. So it doesn't apply to him. So what you're saying is complete and utter false. That the Bereshit doesn't apply to him. And Jesus and the Bible. About Ishmael. Did God not say that he'll become a great nation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
God will bless him
Yep.
When did Ishmael become a great nation?
But he didn't get the blessing of God as the firstborn.
You know, we look
The blessing of the firstborn
as a
of the
Muslim. For me,
Bereshit is Isaac.
no. For me as a Muslim, my yardstick is not the Old Testament or the New Testament. The reason I'm quoting the Old and New Testament is for you to realize that Jesus cannot be God because he died according to your definition of death. He experiences death. God the Father never experiences death. So when he says in 1 Timothy 6:16, he alone is immortal, he's referring to only God the Father who never, ever experiences death in any context.
He does as the second person of the Trinity because the
which is not the Father.
The hypostasis exists.
Which is not the
So
Father, I agree.
only
So the only one who
second
experiences
person-
death is the second person,
Yeah.
hence he's not immortal.
Well, of course it is, because
He's
the
not.
Spirit is immortal, because the Spirit carries on living.
Like I said, you're going
So-
once again to judgment.
So that's
I'm
why
not
I wanted
asking.
to get you
My question
onto
is
the-
1 Timothy 6:16. By the way, when he says in 1 Timothy 16 that God alone is immortal, does it refer to the judgment day?
It doesn't mention the judgment day.
No.
there.
Does it refer the context in anywhere? Does it refer to the judgment day?
Timothy is writing to sinners.
Doesn't
Timothy
matter.
is-
It doesn't matter whom he's writing
you have
to.
get the context of
I'm
why-
asking you
why
for the
he's
context.
writing
In the
that.
context of 1
In the
Timothy.
context, he's writing to sinners who need to be called to correct way. And what he's telling
No.
those sinners is that
You're
you are
spinning once
destined-
again.
No, I'm
I
not.
don't want you to spin. My
This is
question is when
Timothy's letter.
he says he alone means God alone is immortal.
At that moment, when he's preaching to
Yeah.
people, he's
Does it
saying,
refer
look,
to all
you are
to the judgment
destined-
day?
He's saying to them, you are destined for hell. God alone is immortal. That's why we must be like him. That's why we must
Where does it say
repent.
you're destined for hell? You
throughout
make
the
up
whole-
things.
throughout the
No,
Bible.
don't give me throughout the whole Bible. You see how you spin? When I'm giving you a specific reference, 1 Timothy 6:16, you're going to the whole Bible. No, this is
Well,
not
you've
how
got
context.
to.
Wait. If you want context, you read the passage I quoted and you give the context from there, not the whole Bible. In the whole Bible, the only one who is immortal exclusively is God the Father. Because according to you, death means separation of the soul from the body, which means Jesus experienced death according to your own doctrines. I'm saying the Father is the only one who never experiences death in any context, whether it's Judgment Day, whether it's before Judgment Day. Yes, did Jesus experience? Did Jesus experience? We don't believe he's God anyway.
Right, well, we do. So.
In fact, he's
Bible-
excluded from most of the Bible.
The Bible, the context of Bible is salvation history. So it goes right from Genesis 3:15, where
There's no Trinity in any of the Bible.
where the seed of the woman will crush the head of the snake, and then it
Yeah.
goes on.
We discussed that earlier.
Yeah, so it goes for all that into the New Testament. So to get the context of the Bible, you have to take it in salvation.
So why
history.
did no one in the Bible worship?
God is always calling us back to repentance, away from our
Yes,
sins.
God is, but
That's
not the
what
Trinity.
That's what Timothy
Not
is
the
doing
Trinity.
now.
That's what I'm
He's
saying.
calling people away from their sins, repenting.
Wins. Before the Judgment Day, who is the only immortal?
Until we are judged, God is immortal.
No.
Yeah.
Can you answer who is the immortal from the Trinity before the Judgment Day?
The Trinity is God.
I know.
You can't separate the
You
Trinity
can.
from God. No,
Because,
you can't.
okay, who died on the cross?
Jesus.
Why did you separate from the Trinity?
Sorry?
Why did you separate the Trinity?
No, that's Jesus in the flesh, and in a hypostatic union with
Exactly.
the Spirit. He is
When I'm asking
experiencing-
you specifically from the three who died on the cross, you said immediately Jesus.
Jesus in the flesh.
Did you separate the
Hypostatic union.
Did you separate the Trinity now by doing that?
No, the Trinity is still one.
So did
Still the
so
one
who
God.
died on the cross then?
Jesus.
Thank you. Once again you separated it.
No.
When I ask you before the Judgment Day, now watch this. Watch how we'll include all three and he'll never exclude one. Before the day of judgment, who is the only immortal?
God.
Which God?
God, the one God.
See, he never separated. Did you notice that?
The one God.
Have you seen how this is exactly what the Pharisees used to do. They never used to be sincere. They used to twist the words. And that's why Jesus said, yes, like whatever they teach you, take that, don't do what they do. Why?
Right, so
Wait. Now,
you're doing a lot of talking, and I keep
okay, go
wanting
on.
to
Go on. How will you
get
respond
back.
to that?
Yeah.
Once again, the question is,
So
who is the only one who is the only immortal before the Judgment Day? And that is only the Father.
So-
because according to him, in fact, he already answered the question because he said Jesus died on the cross. Anyone who dies cannot be immortal. Okay? And that's the reason I specifically asked before the Judgment Day, because he kept doing that. He kept spinning to the Judgment Day.
I can't remember the verse now, but it says that we will be clothed with immortality
On the Judgment Day.
Yes.
My
on the
question wasn't Judgment Day.
So
I've already
Well,
nipped
that's
that
what
in the
we
bud.
get-
No. The reason I nipped that in the bud for you, because you kept doing that. You kept going to the Judgment Day. My question now is very specific. Before the judgment day, who is the only immortal?
So before we're judged, nobody's got immortality except God, because we don't know
Which God?
if we're condemned to
Does the Son?
one God.
Okay, does the Son have
We don't know-
immortality?
hold on, we don't know if we're condemned to the fires of hell or if we're going to live in paradise forever with God. We don't know that at this stage.
Good.
Until
So now answer the question.
So, as Timothy is saying, at this moment in time, you don't know
No.
if you're going
That's got nothing to do with definition of immortal.
So the only one who's immortality at the moment is immortal at the moment is God, and that's who we must follow. That's
Okay.
what Timothy is calling
Good.
people.
Let me
back to.
rephrase that question now. The term immortal means what? Before the judgment day. What does it mean?
Immortal means without death. We've just had this
Good.
conversation.
Means never experiencing death. Does
And
God
then
does God experience death?
When we spoke earlier, we spoke about what does death mean.
Yes,
So
separation
death
of the
means
soul from the body.
separation of the soul.
Did Jesus experience that?
Yes.
Good.
In the hypostatic
Good.
union.
Did
So
the Father experience
experienced
that?
So
Did the Father? Okay.
Father
So
wasn't
based
on
on
the
this
cross.
definition which you just gave of death and immortality, who is the only immortal before the judgment day?
Jesus was
will
immortal.
never answer
because,
this.
Yeah, Jesus was immortal because he will not die. He will raise his body back up. Jesus says, "I lay down my life so that I will take it
So
up."
you're
again."
saying
So Jesus,
you're saying Jesus was immortal all the time?
yes, in the spirit, yes, as the second person.
No,
of
no.
the
Why are you saying
Trinity.
spirit? In the body, was he
Because-
immortal?
Because he took flesh to himself.
In the body, was he immortal?
In the body, not immortal at the moment until the
Thank
resurrection.
you. I rest my case. Finally, he said it. Finally, he said it.
In the flesh,
Because
yeah.
you see, in the flesh, which means all of creation, including Jesus, the only one who's not mortal is God the Father, because he's always immortal,
Jesus.
because he never puts on flesh. The one who
No,
puts
Jesus
on flesh
does.
dies. Exactly, that's what I'm telling you. So it disqualifies him clearly as God, because they are not co-equal. One is immortal all the time, that is God the Father, the God of Jesus.
is always immortal in the spirit.
So are you.
In
So are you.
No, until God judges me.
No.
Until God
Okay,
judges me,
so-
God might condemn me.
So let me
to,
ask you something.
hell.
If God judges you to be going to paradise, to go to heaven,
Yeah.
then would you be same as Jesus? All the
I
time
will
immortal?
Be immortal. So we all share in the
Okay,
inheritance.
so
of
you will be
Christ.
immortal all the time.
Yeah, we share.
Yeah,
in the
so you will
inheritance
be
of
no
Christ.
different to Jesus.
We share in
Okay.
terms of immortality.
Okay,
yes.
that means you're not equal to the Father, but equal to Jesus.
No, I'm equal to everyone who's got immortality. So all the other humans who have been granted.
Are you equal to
that.
God the Father then? Who never experiences death?
In terms of immortality, if
No,
if
in
I- if
terms
God,
of-
if God has made me immortal,
Based on the
as
definition
he
you
is
gave of immortality. You said anyone who experiences death is mortal. Am I right? Not immortal, is mortal.
The flesh is mortal.
Yes.
Because flesh,
So flesh is
mortal
mortal.
means,
Good. So the Father doesn't have flesh.
Yeah. No, the Father didn't take flesh to himself.
Thank
no.
you very much. So you cannot be equal to the Father. Ever.
in my spirit, but when I get the resurrection.
Even in spirit, you will get a new body, remember?
Yeah.
The Father will not
But-
get a
but
new
my
body.
spirit will
The
still be
Father
there.
will not get a new body, so
there
you
will
can't
still
be equal.
There will still be the essence
No,
of me.
no matter how you spin it, you will always have a body.
Well, it's not spinning it. How do you see yourself then?
Wait.
When
Will
Allah
you-
judges
will you ever-
Will he be judging
Oh my God.
you?
The
or will he
Father,
be judging a new
I'm saying the
person?
Father will
hold
never
it.
have a body.
You've danced a lot. Let me get a little bit in it.
Actually, I don't want to call you out so many times.
If Allah judges you, is it you or is it some new creation He's made in heaven?
Me.
Is it you? Right,
Yes.
So you're going to be their judge to be judged to either good
And
enough
I
to
will
live
get a
in
new body.
paradise. Yeah,
Will you get a new body?
Yes, we
Good.
get a resurrected.
Does the
glorified
Father have a
body?
body?
No.
Good. So
by
he
the
never
Spirit.
dies because he doesn't have a body. You
Yeah.
die because you have a body. Jesus dies because
I
Jesus
die.
has a body. I die because I have a body. Now that we are clear,
I-
who has a body will always be mortal on the earth, including Jesus Christ. Do you agree?
In the flesh.
Who has a body means what?
In the flesh.
I've already made that connection in the body.
No,
Okay?
you're missing the
No,
whole.
I said
you're
in the
missing-
body. So
in
Jesus-
Philippians 2:6 it says.
Let's read that.
Jesus. Okay.
Let's read Philippians 2, because that is a knockout verse from his Bible, which they don't realize yet. Which version do you read? Can you read from the
King James or
New American? Read from the New American.
I haven't got that on here.
Should be there.
Well,
The reason I'm saying is that because the New American normally has a
6.
literal translation.
I've got Young's literal translation on there.
No, that's fine.
All
Read
right,
from the
so-
NASB.
So, have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, he did not account equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a
good.
servant, being born in the likeness of men.
Okay, what do you understand from that?
So he took flesh to himself. So it wasn't a man walking around that he went and inherited. This is God taking flesh. He created the
So
flesh.
there's a
The
change in
Holy
nature
Spirit-
from no body to body.
So
It's a
the
change
Holy-
in nature, yeah?
No change in nature.
How is not a change in nature? Did he
No,
have a
no.
body before?
No, he's taken flesh to himself.
No,
So
no, flesh is nature, right?
No, he's still God.
Your
in
human
spirit.
nature is flesh, right? Your
Yes,
human nature.
Yes, but
Did Jesus have a human nature before incarnation?
No.
So it's a change in nature.
No, it does not change.
You
in
can
nature,
deny as
because
much
the
as you want.
essence- The essence
Let's move
stays
on.
There.
No,
He's still the spirit.
essence.
He's still the
wait,
spirit.
When
he takes the flesh.
the
to
essence
himself.
is not just the spirit. The essence includes all of you, all of your nature, not just the spirit. That's why they call it a hypostatic union of two natures, spirit and human. Are you with me?
Yes.
Good. So, did he have two natures before incarnation or one nature?
One nature.
And after incarnation?
He took on the form of a servant.
No, after incarnation, did he have one nature or two natures?
So it takes the body gets resurrected.
Two natures or one nature?
It's a hypostatic union.
Which is
of
one
the
nature or two natures? Why are you so difficult? Why are you so difficult?
Well, because
it's
I'm
two
trying-
natures.
trying to understand where you're going.
The
Tell me
term,
where
the
you're
term
going.
hypostatic union of what? Two natures or one nature? You see why it's so difficult? Because he realized and the penny has dropped.
No.
Before incarnation, Jesus has only one nature, which is divine.
Jesus, the nature is the essence of a being, the essence of a person. That
I agree.
Stays the same.
I agree.
God never changes.
No.
God can take.
He did change.
Take flesh to Himself. That doesn't change the nature of God.
Okay.
God didn't become weaker. The flesh was brought to God.
Is your
So
essence is your essence of a human being?
my essence?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Did Jesus have a human essence?
Yes.
Very good.
Human nature.
Very good.
Yeah.
If he had a human essence, does he also have a divine essence?
Yes.
Good. How many essences are that?
So that's hypostatic union.
No, how many essence?
That's hypostatic union between the essence of God
Vince,
and the essence
just answer the question. How many
human
essence?
nature.
How many essence?
So he brings the human nature.
How many
that's
essence?
Two. That's two, yeah.
Thank you. Finally, see how difficult this guy is? Two natures. One is divine, one is human. Now the question is this. If he has two natures, post-incarnation, then pre-incarnation, how many natures did he have? Watch now. Watch how we'll spin.
Give me the question again, because you're jumping around the question.
No, I'm not. It's a very clear question. I think everybody here understood, except you. Once again, before incarnation.
So before incarnation,
how many natures did
there was
Jesus
one
have?
Essence, yes.
Natures. How many natures did he have?
The essence
By the way,
of nature.
yeah, exactly. So how many did he have?
One.
Which is
one,
what?
One,
divine or human?
The divine God.
He had only divine nature.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So now you realize that before incarnation he had one nature and one essence, which is divine only. After incarnation, he has two natures, divine and human.
No,
which is a change in nature.
The essence of
Thank
God,
you.
The essence of God stays the same.
Which is what?
God takes to Himself that the human form becomes incarnate, then dies, and the body is resurrected, glorified.
Okay, so you're telling me there was no change.
God still is still God.
Look. I think you're misunderstanding deliberately or not.
No, not
Did
deliberately.
Did you understand from the conversation so far whether Jesus has one nature or two natures after incarnation? Did you understand that?
After incarnation, there are two natures.
Good.
Yes.
So Jesus' overall nature includes two natures, divine and human, after incarnation.
Jesus has the nature of God and takes to Himself the second nature of the flesh.
Good. So now the overall of Christ is one or two?
So there's two, because it's the hypostatic union.
Thank you. Now bear that in mind, yeah? Hold to something, I don't know. So you remember, you said two natures post-incarnation. Now, the question is about before he became a man, pre-incarnation. Did he have a human nature pre-incarnation?
The incarnation hadn't been born yet, so no.
So he did not have a human nature?
It's a tricky philosophical question, because
no, it's a simple English question, not philosophical.
God says before
There's nothing philosophical. You understand, if you understand the difference between 1 and 2, 1 and 2, a primary student will understand it. A kid in a primary school will understand this. The difference between 1 and 2 is very clear.
There's things in the Bible called theophanies, which is where God appears in
no
the
need
physical.
to put theophanies. There's got nothing to do with theophany.
Okay,
how many natures? All I'm asking is, how many natures pre-incarnation?
So the incarnate form was not born yet. So
how many natures?
Nature. Yeah.
Thank you. Finally, did you remember the 2? You kept it in your mind, right?
Yes, so God's
good.
Taken
now the question is this. This is a primary school question, and I don't mean to belittle you. Is 2 natures equal to 1 nature?
Why would it be?
So it's not.
No, so God took the form of the man. God took the man to the flesh to Himself.
No need to philosophize. It's a simple. Remember,
it's not philosophize. It's Bible.
No.
I told you two Philippians. I just read it for you.
So wait. The question is what? What was my question?
Is There are two natures. So you're trying to imply that there's a change.
You didn't even remember the
God.
question. That's how you forget so soon. Let me remind you again.
So let me get back to my
No,
question
wait.
to you, because-
You need to answer this question before you skip.
All right, you answer
It's
this
two-
question. I'll answer this question
Good.
and then we get on to Islam.
So no, don't dance around it. Just answer the question. Is two natures equal to one nature?
Two is not equal to one.
Good. So two natures is not equal to one nature. Are we in
Right.
agreement? Are we in
That's it,
agreement?
yeah.
Good. So pre-incarnation, it was only one nature.
There was one
Post-incarnation is two natures.
So-
Hence, it is a change in nature. Now you can answer.
No. So post-incarnation, the nature of God stays the same. It's still God. And God has taken flesh to himself and resurrected that body in a hypostatic union. So the original nature...
What do you mean the nature of God remains the same?
You're comparing two different things. You're saying that God has now changed. No, God stays the same throughout. Never changes. The question I wanted to ask you about the, and I've forgotten it now, about the Islamic version of death is
No. Wait. You said God's
You said
nature.
last question and I answered it.
No, but your answer was against what you said earlier. You said pre-incarnation, one nature, post-incarnation, two natures.
But two
Which
natures
means-
existed. That
I know.
That doesn't mean the first nature ever changed.
I didn't say that. Did I say that?
So what
In
were
fact,
you saying
I
then?
repeatedly said divine nature and human nature post-incarnation.
Yeah, so the first...
And we agreed that essence, the overall nature of Jesus Christ post-incarnation is two natures. Overall nature. His essence is now not just divine, but also human.
This is two natures now, because we have
It
the
is.
resurrected, glorified
That's why
body.
it's called hypostatic union.
Yeah.
Okay?
So in Islam, I wanted to get back to your understanding.
Okay.
Of
So
death
now we know it's a
and
change
what-
in nature, yeah?
No.
From only
No.
divine to divine and human.
The nature of God stays exactly the same.
No, it was.
Never changes.
So what was added?
God takes flesh to himself.
Thank you.
That's what it says in
Good.
Philippians 2:6.
So, oh yeah, you
God
remind me
took
of Philippians.
flesh.
That's good actually. In Philippians, you read.
Well,
No, in
We're
Philippians.
going to another one of yours.
No, but this is something that you just read. In Philippians, when he says he emptied himself,
Emptied himself, yeah.
what did he empty himself of?
Of his divine abilities. So when he's inheriting the flesh, he's not on the earth doing the sort of things that could never affect God.
So he emptied his divinity.
He's growing.
Wait, did he
he's
empty his
learning.
divinity?
He put his divinity to one side.
No. When
So
you
he
say
emptied himself.
you know when you empty something. If
Yeah,
I empty this
yeah.
bottle, right now there's
Yeah.
water in there.
So-
if I empty it, what will remain in the
In
bottle?
the flesh, he emptied all divinity within the flesh.
Wait,
Because he's taken that-
He didn't have flesh before. How can he empty from the flesh?
Because he's taken something to him.
No. So you agree that he's taking on another nature.
He's he's keeping the nature. This is the mistake you're making.
So what did he empty himself of
You
then?
keep saying that the nature changed. The nature stayed exactly the same. God took flesh to himself.
Well, which means he added a new nature.
So when
He added a new nature, right?
No, the nature is the same.
No,
This is a new nature for the flesh. So when
I
God,
don't know why you separate the.
When
You know, this.
God-
By the way, this is a heresy. When you separate the two natures of God in Christianity, he cannot do that, which he's been doing all along. As
No.
soon as you separate the two natures
I've said all along they're in hypostatic union.
in the
I've
same
been
person,
very
right?
Clear.
So in the same person who is called Jesus,
Yes.
or the second person of the
Yes.
Trinity,
Hypostatic.
post-incarnation,
Yes.
this hypostatic union is how many natures?
The hypostatic union is the two natures, the perfect
Thank
man,
you.
the perfect
Are those
God.
both natures in the same person?
Yes, the person's in hypostatic union.
Very good. This person, who is the same person of the second person of the Trinity, is now post-incarnation having two natures, which you cannot separate, by the way.
Yeah.
You do realize it.
So yeah.
Good. Now, pre-incarnation, he had only one nature, the same person. The same
The
person,
same person
the
had
second person of the
one
Trinity.
nature which still exists.
Very good. Yes.
Which still exists.
I didn't say it didn't exist. That's
Yeah.
why I said divine and human.
Yeah.
I never said. Why do you keep strawmanning me?
Well,
I
I'm
never
not
at any point.
strawmanning.
You are, because you keep getting
Because what you're saying
getting
is-
confused
is-
between
is-
one and two. Just
Yeah.
like they get confused between 1 + 1 + 1 is always 3, never 1. Okay. Anyway, I asked you, what did Jesus empty himself of in Philippians 2?
Of the divine nature in the flesh.
Where did he empty? Where did he empty it from?
From any potential in the flesh.
Where did he empty from? You know, like if I say I empty the bottle, I'm emptying it from the bottle. So where did Jesus empty it from?
From the flesh. So that the
flesh wasn't there before, so you can't empty from the flesh.
Grow. The flesh had to grow.
Wait. Let me build a scenario for you. The flesh wasn't there before. Pre-incarnation,
it was born.
there was no flesh.
It was born, it grew.
Hear me out. Pre-incarnation, there was no flesh. Philippians 2 is talking about pre-incarnation or post-incarnation?
Sorry.
Philippians 2 is talking about post-incarnation or or pre-incarnation.
So it's explained in the Incarnation that
Yeah.
as God took flesh himself,
Yeah. He becomes lower than the angels.
lower than the angels.
He becomes a
yes.
servant.
Yes.
Whose servant does he become?
The servant of all the people that he's come to
Good.
redeem.
So God is a master for me. I don't know about you, but your God is a servant now, post-incarnation.
God says we must be servants.
I know.
God says,
I know.
did not come
But I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your God who became a servant.
Yeah, God.
Do you realize
God said,
that?
I came to serve.
Good. So your
Yeah,
God
yeah.
became a servant. He's no more the master.
Yep.
Do you agree?
So that's what Jesus said. Jesus says that he came to serve us.
I know.
Yes.
That's why I'm telling you.
But
God.
that doesn't alter his.
It does, because a master is not equal to a servant.
No.
He said it himself. Jesus said it. The master is not the same as the servant.
Yeah,
Very
so
clearly.
Jesus comes to serve us.
I know.
To serve our needs.
So
To serve our purpose.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying I'm agreeing with you, but you need to understand the consequence of this. When Jesus becomes a servant and he becomes nothing and he empties himself, yes, he becomes lower than even the angels.
While he's in the flesh, yes.
I know, but you're saying in the flesh is fully God.
Yes, but then on death, that spirit is separated from the flesh. And
Why did you
flesh,
fast forward to death?
the
We're still
flesh-
talking about his birth.
Yes.
Why are you separating,
Well,
going fast forwarding to the death?
You're fast forwarding to eternity. You're saying that in heaven that Jesus has changed his nature.
Not in heaven. I'm saying when he incarnated, he changed his nature. I don't know why you don't understand such simple
So God's nature is always
logic
the
here.
same.
Okay, once again, you're saying he emptied himself of what? Once again, let's see if you remember that. What did the second person of the Trinity, when it incarnated, what did it empty himself? Yeah, read it from the Bible.
So
Because ESV is a good one. It uses the term emptied. NIV removed this word.
but he emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men.
So emptied himself of what?
Of the divinity in the flesh, so that the flesh had to grow.
How can he empty the divinity from the flesh when the flesh wasn't there?
Because he's in hypostatic union.
No, that wasn't my question. What if he emptied himself from the flesh? Then you're implying the flesh was there before incarnation.
No, he emptied himself to bring the flesh into hypostatic union.
No,
so
what?
That in the hypostatic
I didn't ask you
union,
why he
in
emptied
flesh-
himself. I'm asking what did he empty himself of? So if I empty this bottle, I'm emptying the water in there.
Yeah.
So imagine this scenario. If this is the second person of the Trinity, I'm not saying it is, just for analogy. If we use this analogy that he had divinity before, now he emptied it. So the only emptying will happen from the person, not from the flesh, because the flesh was never there.
From the bottle you see, from the bottle you use, that's now empty.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the vessel
so
of the flesh.
what is emptied from here? The water, right?
Of the flesh.
Yeah.
The vessel of the flesh is not equal at that moment when it's walking the earth with the divinity of God.
No, he said he emptied.
Yeah.
So you need to be
So
full.
if God would bring in,
you need to be full of something, not full, even partial. You need to have something to empty it. So what is it that he had which he emptied? If that makes sense to you, I can't make it any simpler.
Yeah. So I think I've answered that.
No, you haven't. You haven't. You evaded it.
God.
You're beating around the bush.
God took flesh to himself.
What did he have that he emptied himself?
That flesh was perfect.
He never had flesh, so you can't use that argument. What did he empty that he had before?
That flesh, he was made for a while lower than the angels.
Exactly. So he lowered his glory.
So lowered his glory. Yeah. And
he lost his glory. Not lowered.
Which is why he says in John, Father, give me the glory that
Very
I
good.
had with you.
Very good.
Before the
So
world
he
began.
emptied his glory. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Good.
So emptied his glory.
What do you call a God who is gloryless?
We call God the Trinity.
No. What do you call a God who is gloryless?
We call God the Trinity.
Did I ask you what do you call God?
So that's.
I asked you. I added
God
the. Okay. Can you? Is your God gloryless or with glory?
He's with glory.
Good. Is Jesus,
Jesus
when
in the
Jesus was,
flesh-
begging God to give him glory, was he with glory or without glory?
So Jesus in the flesh.
When he was praying to God to give him glory, was
Yeah.
he with glory or without glory?
So he was calling back the glory that he had before.
No. Was he with glory or without glory?
This is again getting on to something that I need to study a bit more on.
You don't need to. It's simple.
Because
let me ask you
Jesus
something.
was always perfect.
If you had glory, why would you pray to God for glory? The only logical explanation of that, which he doesn't want to admit, is this: because this God of his, he emptied himself of the glory of God, and the glory of God cannot be emptied. Otherwise, he'll change his nature again.
Out of a vessel, as you just said with the water.
Yeah, that will change the nature now. Okay,
No,
that will
that's
change.
an empty bottle. Then that means that you've taken away.
But you need to have the water first to empty it. So
yeah,
did Jesus?
So in the vessel of the flesh.
Okay, so let me ask you this: did Jesus have the glory before emptying it?
Jesus had the glory, but not. He wasn't flesh. He was spirit.
Doesn't matter. Did he have the glory or not?
It does matter because it's
So
in
did
the
he-
flesh. It's
okay.
in the flesh
Good.
that Jesus says.
So when he became
"Father,
flesh,
give me the glory that
no
I had
problem.
with you before
No
the
problem.
world
Let's go
began."
with that. Let's go with that.
That's in the flesh.
No problem.
I want to get onto these
no,
questions
wait.
about Islam,
Wait.
and,
So he had glory.
never asked this man
Wait,
a question about Islam, but he's avoiding.
wait a minute. No, I'm not avoiding. You asked me about death. I answered it. Glory.
you
You said he had glory before, but when he incarnated and became flesh, he emptied that glory. Do you agree? Is that what he's saying?
Jesus emptied himself of the glory to come
Okay.
into come
Was
into the
that
flesh,
glory?
yes.
Was that glory within the divine nature or within the human nature before he emptied it?
God's glory is always in the divine nature.
Good. So when he emptied it, where did he empty it from?
So he didn't take it into the flesh.
I didn't ask you where he didn't take it. I asked you where did he
So
empty
he
it
used
from?
the analogy of a bottle.
Yes.
So what we see in the flesh,
He
is
knows it, he
Jesus
knows it.
Emptied.
He gave you without bottle analogy as well. That
Yeah.
when that Jesus was in the divine, he was with the glory or without glory?
He was
It's
with the
not a
glory.
bottle.
So if he was with the glory,
No. So coming into the flesh, he did not bring the glory into the flesh. He emptied that
from where?
from the flesh. So that
Wait,
wasn't
no,
in the
there was no flesh. There was
That's
no.
what he's-
I didn't ask you where he emptied it into. I'm asking where did he empty it from? Simple English, dude.
From the flesh. Because
There
he's
was no
taken-
flesh before.
He's taken the flesh to
OMG.
himself.
Okay, look, we'll leave it for our viewers to judge it because he's not being
Right.
sincere.
Jesus
And I
is
mean
telling
that
you
because
everything is energy and nothing's separate from energy.
energy is the creation of God. Anyway.
Right.
So anyway, what I'm saying is that if Jesus emptied his glory, if Jesus, you're saying he emptied, it doesn't make
Right.
sense either. If he emptied the glory from divine into the, you're saying he did not put it in the flesh, or did he put the glory in the flesh? Where did the glory go?
The glory stayed with the
He emptied
spirit.
it from the
Okay,
divine.
so when Jesus is praying,
You admitted that one. That he emptied it himself from the divine, it's recorded.
yeah.
From the
Yes,
divine,
you said
the
it.
divine did not go into put the glory into the flesh. So the flesh was.
You see,
lower
once
than
again,
the
he's saying
angels.
where he put it. I didn't ask where he put it. Where did he empty it from? So if I put this, wait, if I put this on the grass, look, this
There's-
simple English demonstration.
Yeah.
I put water from the water, from the bottle onto the grass. So now you know it goes from one source, one vessel here to another destination.
Right.
Okay. Now wait.
So-
What went from here to there? It is the water.
the water.
Good. Now the question is, let's imagine the water.
So where's it gone? The water.
No. Not where it's gone. Where did it go from? Let's discuss that first. Where did it empty from?
So from the physical,
From the body.
the physical, yes.
From the
physical,
body.
flesh.
Okay, so Jesus had.
So when Jesus took the flesh,
Wait, watch
he
this,
did
watch this.
not bring.
No,
the
you're
glory.
saying Jesus emptied the glory from the flesh. Is that what he said?
So Jesus said he made himself lower than the angels.
Where did he empty it from? From where did he empty it from? Not into what? From where?
This is being written after Jesus has walked.
It doesn't
the earth.
matter.
Yes, it does.
It does.
because
They,
it's
by the way,
explaining-
this is it Paul who's writing Philippians?
Philippians Paul.
Paul.
yeah,
Paul.
yeah.
Does Paul know the Bible better than you?
Well, it wasn't constructed in Paul's time. So
He wrote it.
He wouldn't recognise. No, he wrote his letters.
Does he
but
understand? Does he
knew-
understand the
knew
emptying?
Everything.
Okay,
that was
good.
in
Does he
there.
understand the emptying of glory?
Yeah. Yes.
Good.
yes,
Do
yeah,
you
yeah,
understand
yeah,
the emptying
yeah,
of glory?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. From where did he empty the glory? Last time. If you don't answer this time, then you're not just
So-
being sincere. From where did he empty it?
Jesus emptied the glory from the flesh that he had taken on. This is what it tells us in Philippians.
Okay, you all heard this, yeah? He emptied it from the flesh. Are you now saying Jesus had glory in flesh? Oops.
What?
You
Jesus
fell
had,
in your own trap.
Jesus had glory in flesh? No.
That's what you
No,
said.
no.
He emptied from the flesh.
No, that's the way that they've explained that Jesus.
They didn't
did not
explain
have
like that.
the
You
flesh.
explained it
No,
like that.
The flesh did not.
No,
have
no,
the
no,
glory
you
of
explained
God
it like that.
until the time that it was crucified.
Did you realize
Jesus
you
said-
created a trap for yourself?
Jesus said, "Father, give me the glory that I had with you before the world began."
Where-
So in the flesh, he's empty. The flesh is emptied until that glorified body comes after. the
Did
resurrection.
Jesus ever have the divine glory in flesh?
The divine glory in flesh on the resurrection.
Okay, so you're saying when he was born, he didn't have it.
So it was in hypostatic union.
No, that wasn't my question. Did he have
And
glory
that's
when he
my
was
answer,
born?
but that's my
Did he have
answer.
glory when he was born?
In the hypostatic union.
So
That's
when
the
he was
answer.
on first day when Mary gave birth to him, Jesus.
Before Mary gave birth, in the womb.
No.
With the hypostatic
The
union.
incarnation. Okay, even in the womb. The incarnation happened in the womb, right?
Yes.
So when Jesus was in the womb of Mary, did he have the divine glory?
In the hypostatic union.
Did he
Yes.
have it?
in the hypostatic
Good.
union.
So he didn't empty from the flesh either.
So he kept it in the hypostatic union.
So he did
in
not
the
empty
spirit.
from the flesh either then.
So yes, because in the flesh it's a hypostatic union.
Okay, did he?
So let me ask you a question about Islam now, because I want to
No,
get...
no, wait. This is so
We started
insincere.
over there.
He's saying
You started
Jesus.
over there, you
Wait.
come all the way over here,
You are saying Jesus
and you
had
avoid it completely.
no. Vince, with all due respect,
Yeah,
you're
but Hashim,
saying now. You're saying, and
how much
this
speaking
goes
have you
against
done?
all Christian teaching.
No, it doesn't.
You're saying Jesus in the womb of Mary, Jesus, the second person of Trinity,
Perfect God, perfect man.
Okay, so he had divine glory in the womb of Mary. Yes.
In the hypostatic union as the perfect God,
Good.
yes.
When did he lose it?
He did.
He
didn't put it into the flesh.
When did he lose it? I'm asking because he says he emptied himself. When did he
He
lose
emptied
it?
himself
Yeah.
into the flesh.
When
from the
did
flesh,
that emptying happen?
Because it's a hypostatic union.
When
so it's
did the
emptied from
emptying
the flesh.
happen?
In the flesh.
Good. So in the flesh he was empty.
In the flesh, he's emptied out any glory.
1 minute he's saying he's in the flesh, he has glory. Next minute he's saying in
No,
the flesh.
no, it
Ah,
never
come
had it
on.
in the
You know
flesh.
what?
It never had it
I'm
in
done
the
with
flesh.
this guy. So this is the last time I'm asking him.
Never had it
And
in the flesh,
It shows
but
that
it
it's
says-
insincere the way he said it. Okay. We have no.
So you're not going to answer my question.
What's
on
your
Islam?
question? I asked you about that already. I answered that.
No. I was getting onto it because you
Go
said
on.
God couldn't experience death, and I'm saying to you that Allah created death, and we're getting to the point where we're saying,
Did Allah experience that?
Has Allah created something greater than himself? Because why can He not
Greater.
experience death?
You think that is greater than God?
So no, you do. Why?
When did I say that?
Why do you?
Strawmanning or
Why can't?
dude? Come on.
Why can't Allah?
You know,
experience
I
death?
never strawmanned you.
No,
why
no.
why you saying death is greater than Allah?
Why-
When did I ever say that?
Why can't Allah?
No,
then
wait. I
experience
want
death?
you to first admit that you strawman me.
No, I didn't strawman you. I'm giving the argument that we was
No,
coming
you
to over
said
there. So the
you
argument-
said that is greater than Allah, and I said
That's
it.
the argument I put over there, and that's when you
So
start.
that's your argument. Don't say I said it.
That's my question to you.
Look at these guys, man.
That's my
Wallahi.
question.
Okay,
Why
ask your
can't-
question
Why
again.
can't Allah experience death?
Because Allah is immortal, just
But
like the
he's
Father.
greater. That means he's created something greater than himself.
Just like the Father, right?
No.
Did the Father
If
experience
the
that?
Father wanted to, the Father could experience.
Where does it say that in the Bible?
It doesn't say it.
So
but
don't
he
make
could.
up things about the
No,
Father.
No, because we know.
No.
we
I don't
know
want
the
your mumbo jumbo.
We know
If you cannot show me from the Bible,
the Trinity are all co-equal. So if the Son
They're not
can
co-equal.
experience- if the
They're
Son
not
can
co-equal.
experience, the Father can experience.
no.
Why can
The
Allah-
Father never,
why can
ever.
Allah
Hold on.
not survive death?
I just told you, Allah is not weak like your God, who
He's
can
not-
die
that's not
by His
weak.
own creation.
To overcome something is not weakness.
It is weakness.
Has it? If you overcome death, you're greater than
Okay.
death. If you can't,
Let me ask you
touch death-
something.
No, I want to stick
Okay, go on.
with Islam.
No, but
If
your
you
loaded
can't-
question doesn't make sense.
No, it's not loaded.
It is
It's
loaded.
just a simple
You said,
question.
why can't Allah experience that? Is He weak? That is
No,
a
I
loaded
didn't say
question.
weak. You said he was weak.
Okay.
You said
So let me ask
experience
you.
of death.
Let me ask you something. Is that weakness or strength?
Death is an experience.
Is it weakness or strength?
It's an experience.
Is it weakness
It's the
or strength?
ending, it's the
Okay, let me ask my
separation-
Muslim brothers.
It's a separation. of the body from
Is
the
that
spirit.
weakness?
Weakness, of course.
Thank you very much. According to this guy, that is not weakness. That's why his God experienced death by His own creation. Astaghfirullah.
Death is the separation of the body and
Yeah,
the
that's the
spirit.
definition. But
Yeah?
is it weakness?
That's death. So all you looking here, you will stand on the other side of death and you will be judged by Allah according to Islam. So you believe that you will survive death. So if you can survive death, why do you say God cannot experience death and survive it? Why do you say God must end?
Because-
Jesus took flesh to Himself, and the separation of that flesh is death.
You know the
Now,
reason
I
he didn't ask.
understand
No
Death,
one
death,
survived that.
Wins.
death is
Everyone on earth will die.
Wait, Vince.
But
You
stand
still
in
haven't
the
answered the
spirit in
question.
front of Allah.
A God who dies, is He weak or strong?
So strong. He lays down his life.
No.
for his fellow
Oh,
man.
a God who dies by His own creation,
Well-
is He weak or strong?
Well, we have to make
No,
sure.
answer the question.
No, we have to make sure.
Okay,
You're
you
not
know
going to the nihilistic.
You see,
version of
every
death.
question about Christianity I answered. He's
Well,
not answering the question. He's evading
you are
it.
going to the nihilistic
Once again,
version of
what?
death.
I'm not.
So
I'm not.
we're talking
I'm still
about
using the same
separation.
definition.
Hold
The
it.
same
We're talk-
definition.
so-
Okay,
so-
can
so
God the
death.
Father? Can God the Father take flesh?
If he wants to. If he
Where
wants
does it
to.
say that in the Bible?
It doesn't. It
So
says-
why are
it
you
says
making
the
up?
Trinity?
So you're saying
It says the
the
second
Trinity.
person of the Trinity.
In
is
fact, the
flesh.
Trinity is
And
nowhere in the
because-
Bible.
Because they are
So what you're
co-equal,
saying is from your opinion, not from the
because they are
Bible.
co-equal.
They are not co-equal.
They can all do the same.
Jesus can die,
So
the Father cannot die.
if you are
Jesus is
saying-
ignorant of the last hour, the Father is all-knowing.
if you are
Jesus-
saying, well, I'll come to those in a minute.
Father is not working.
Jesus worships God, the Father never
If
worships
you are
anyone.
saying, can the Father separate flesh from the Spirit? That's the definition of death. Yes, the Father can do that. I want to know why Allah can't do that. Why you say it's impossible? It's a bad thing for Allah to split the flesh
experience death.
from the body. Yeah, to
Yeah,
experience.
I've already
death.
told you, immortal all the time, unlike your God.
But the Spirit stays immortal all the time.
The spirits. So how can you define Him to be mortal,
He's
who is dying on the cross?
He's experiencing death.
Which one?
Spirit.
First person, second person, or the
Spirit.
third person?
What happens to your spirit when you die?
We've already discussed this.
Your spirit does
We
not
already
die.
discussed this.
Your spirit
I
does
never
not die.
said the spirit ceases to exist.
So what's
So
the
stop
problem?
strawmanning
What is
me.
the problem then?
Stop strawmanning me, which I never did to you. When
What
I
is
questioned your Christianity, yes, you answered the questions. Yes, you evaded some certain times, but at no point did I ever strawman you. Now the question.
I'm not strawmanning you. I'm trying to get to the bottom of what you're saying.
You think God can do everything?
Why is it that Allah created death, but He cannot experience it?
Because, okay, let me ask you this.
Because a lot of Muslims are
Hold on,
say
hold on.
God cannot die.
Hold on. If God created something, does He need to be that something?
Depends what God's plan is.
Exactly. God's plan is not that He'll die like your God. My God is ever living, who doesn't die. That is His plan.
But this is where so you're jumping in the definition.
I'm not jumping
now
the
talking
definition.
About a God who can die in the terms of nihilism, that they will be blinked out
Once
of
again,
existence.
look, I never said
Right,
cease to
okay,
exist.
so-
He's strawmanning again. Nihilism is strawman. Because I never said He ceases
Clarify
to
what you mean
exist.
by God dying then. Clarify what you mean by God dying. Do
God-
you mean God separating the flesh from the spirit? Is that what you mean by dying?
Death means...
That's what I mean
Hold
by
on.
dying.
Okay. Death means separation of the soul from the body.
Yeah.
Okay? You're saying God the Father can experience that.
If He had taken flesh to Himself...
For which
he
you have
would-
no evidence.
No,
You're
he hasn't.
speculating.
He hasn't.
Are you speculating?
You asked me a speculative question.
No, I didn't.
You did. You
I
asked me a
didn't.
speculative
Because
question.
how is it speculative when the Bible itself says God is immortal? How is it speculative?
Because
You're the one
saying,
speculating.
You're saying, can God the Father die? And I'm saying, in hypothetical terms, if He had taken flesh
So who's
to
speculating,
himself,
me or you?
You, because you're putting this speculative
No,
question to me.
I'm saying the Bible says God the Father is immortal. 1 Timothy 6:16.
Yes. So why are you
So
ask-
wait.
so why are you
Wait a
asking
minute.
me if
I
God can die then?
substantiate it.
Why are you asking
I
me if the Father can
substantiate it
die?
with evidence from the Bible. You, Mr.
Yeah.
Vince, are speculating.
No. Why
We'll
did
let
you
the
ask-
people judge now.
Why did you ask
Move
me if
on,
the
move on.
Father can die
Okay,
then?
so you're saying God can do anything. Is that what you're saying?
God, yes.
Can He do anything?
You're not going to give me this silly
No.
question about building a rock.
No, not that.
Right, okay.
Can God do anything?
Yes.
Can God cease to exist?
So again, you're going to give me that silly question.
It's not a
And
silly
that's what I
question.
just said, just
It's a
before I done
logical
it.
question.
Can God create a rock?
No.
heavier
That
than
I didn't ask about the
himself
rock.
can't live?
I didn't ask about the rock.
This
By the
is,
way, that's an illogical question,
No,
and I'll
it's
tell
not
you
a
that
logical
upfront.
question.
It is
It's
illogical.
illogical. It's totally illogical.
Okay, how is
Philosophers
this
dismiss
question?
these questions,
How is,
they're
how
nonsense
is my
questions.
question illogical? Can God cease to exist? How is that illogical? Explain.
Because then he wouldn't be God.
Thank you. So there's one thing He cannot do.
Well, that's where
You
you're
never said
talking
it's
about-
illogical, did you now? You
You're
never said it's
talking
illogical.
about existence
Okay.
and death.
Now
as we
let me ask you
understand
another
it.
question.
No, hold it, because you're confusing and
I'm
conflating.
not. We'll let the people
existence-
judge.
He's conflating existence as death being the blinking out of existence. This is what I tried to say very clearly. Death is the separation of the body and the spirit. So when we say God dies, it's that separation. The same as all used.
We know
will
that.
be
He's
separated.
just repeating
your
himself.
flesh from your spirit.
Okay.
That's what we mean when we say God can die.
So Vince-
now what he keeps going on to is about God is dead.
He keeps strawmanning, keeps
No, this is
speculating.
what you're trying
At
to
least
do.
I substantiate from the
There's a-
Bible that God is
there's
the
a-
only one who is immortal. 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 16. I substantiated what I said, that God is not a mortal, but He is immortal. This guy says God can become mortal. Now let's...
No, God takes flesh to Himself. The flesh is mortal. God
Yeah, but you're saying He
God
can
never
do that, right?
changes.
You're saying He
Yeah,
can do
he
that.
can. God
Good.
is all-powerful.
I'm not saying God can become mortal. You're the one saying it. Because if God defines...
again,
You know, there are
you've already
certain...
changed it
Okay.
there. I didn't say God became mortal. I said God took flesh to
When did
Himself.
I say? I said God, according to you, God can become mortal.
No,
Listen
he
to what
takes
I'm saying.
flesh to Himself.
I know, that's what
God
mortal
stays
is.
God.
Allahu Akbar. Okay, let me ask you this. Can God lie?
Can God lie? Well, again, it's a philosophical question.
It's
isn't it?
not?
I would say no. I would say no.
No, why
because
would you say...
whatever God
Why
says
would you say no?
is existence.
Earlier you said God can do anything.
Well, again, this is these philosophical
It's not a
questions.
philosophical
It's
question.
these
It's a very
philosophical
logical
nonsense.
question, right, guys?
It's can God build a rock heavier than
I-
we can
you
lift?
see-
Can God build
You
a
see,
square
he's got that in
circle?
his head because the atheist
No.
asked him this question. I don't ask those kind of questions. I will not ask you, can God create a
square circle.
square circle
That is the same
or a
thing
married
you're saying.
bachelor? Can God create a married bachelor? That would be an illogical question because there's such a thing doesn't exist. Now the question I asked him wasn't philosophical. If you ask me, Allah does not lie. But he didn't answer that question.
I said it's.
You know
I
why?
said it's-
Because it goes against his speculation. God can do
No,
anything.
No.
We
I
say-
said to you, and I started saying, anything God says cannot be lied because God is a self-existent being. So whatever God says, that's it.
So God says he's immortal. That's it.
Yeah. So there's no.
How
no
dare you
lie.
say he can die?
There's no
How
lie.
dare you?
You see, again, you're flipping over.
I'm not.
You're flipping over to this.
I'm using your own
nihilistic-
principle.
There's a form of what atheists believe
What?
that is nihilism.
Which
That
is what?
where-
Which is what?
Where you blink out of existence.
Which you cease to
There's
exist, right?
nothing. You cease to exist.
Did I ever
completely.
say that?
He keeps saying.
Did I ever say that? No.
How can your God die? My God can take flesh to himself and can separate him from that flesh. That's death.
Straw man.
That's
Okay.
death as
Anyway,
we all
so
understand
God
death.
cannot lie. At least he was honest about that because he realized that if his God lies, everything written in the Bible goes out the window.
Well, no, it's
You know
just-
why? That is the reason he had to admit that there is one thing God cannot do, that he cannot lie. Okay,
God
now let me
cannot-
ask you this. This is not a
He-
philosophy.
He's trying to put words in my mouth. I never said anything.
Yeah.
Uh,
You know, you asked me about death. You're saying that God needs to, if God cannot be like the creation, then he cannot be God. Is that what you're trying to imply?
I'm saying if God is all powerful, he can come into his creation, he can do things in his creation. He can take
No, answer the
flesh
question
to
I asked
himself. Yes.
Are you implying that God can do everything his creation can do?
Yes.
His creation can lie.
So
End of story. Oops. The cat's got your tongue now.
so what is a lie? That is
Oh, you want to
that-
define the
us-
lie now? Seriously?
Well, yeah, because that's
You
us
guys
trying
want to
get
spin everything.
that's
This
us
is like
trying-
speaking to Jordan Peterson. Every single word in the sentence he
When
wants a
we
different.
when we lie, we are trying to get an advantage for ourselves. God doesn't
What is lie?
need
Let's define
any
lie.
advantage.
Let's see if you know English.
It's
What is
something-
lie?
It's something that you are saying that's untrue, but that will
Thank
give
you.
some sort of
Thank you.
advantage to yourself
Can the creation
or
do that?
Save you
Good,
some
good.
sort of
Can a creation do that?
inconvenience.
Can a
The
creation do that?
creation, it does that. That's how we define.
Can a God do that?
That's how we define. If God says something, it is.
Good. Can God do that? What a creation
If God-
does.
whatever God
if
says,
if a
it
creation
is.
can lie, can your God lie?
Again, this is your question about round circles.
No, it is not. It
square
is not.
circles and all
In
that.
fact, lie exists. The concept of lie does exist because you just said it. You defined it very nicely. That if you speak untruth, if you speak falsehood, yes, like the Pharisees, that is a lie. If a creation can do it according to his logic, God can do it.
No,
So-
no, creation would do things for its own advantage. God does not lie. Whatever God
how much
says.
God-
Can God lie for his advantage?
Whatever. No,
In fact,
not
I'll show him.
advantage,
I'll
not
show him
advantage.
how. By the way, is deception lie?
Well, you're going to have to define deception. For me to
He wants
test,
definition of every word
for
now.
me to test someone
All of a
on
sudden.
something and not give them the answer.
No. What is
although I know
deception?
the answer. I'm testing them.
What is the meaning of deception?
Deception is to how would you say it in English? It means to set one set of circumstances as being the truth when they're not actually the truth, and you with the intention that person will accept them as the
So
truth.
basically, deliberately, yes, deliberately, I'll give it from the dictionary here, cause someone to believe something that is not true. Do you agree with that definition, dictionary definition?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Will God do that?
No.
Good. Let's-
Except in the sense I've said where we're testing, because I may not give you the full answer of something, and I may set you something to do.
Okay.
That
Let's-
would be a
Let's
test.
read the Bible.
It's Ezekiel 49, isn't it?
Yeah. Bring it up. You got the Bible on you?
Yeah.
Give him the reference, Ezekiel
Ezekiel 49?
14, 9.
Ezekiel.
Yeah,
14, chapter 14, verse 9.
yeah. I think that's the verse.
It says here, and if the prophet be deceived and speak a word, I, the Lord, have deceived that prophet.
Hang on. Ezekiel, what one? Sorry.
14:9.
Chapter 14, verse 9.
14.
Yeah. Also, Paul deceived. But be that as it may, I do not burden you myself. Nevertheless, devious person that I am, I took you in by deceit. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 16. Paul is a liar, a deceiver, and God is a deceiver according to your Bible.
So-
Go on, read it.
And if the prophet is deceived and speaks a word, so the prophet is already deceiving, he's already telling lies, I, the Lord, have deceived that prophet, and I will stretch out my hand against him. So what he's saying is that he will give back what that prophet's done.
No, who
That
deceives the prophet?
God will give back what he's done to
Who
him.
deceives the prophet?
It says, I,
the Lord.
I deceived that prophet. I, the Lord, have deceived that prophet, and will stretch out. So he's giving back. So it's like if you kill, I will take back your life. Whatever you do.
So you agree,
I will-
you agree, whatever the context.
This is in judgment.
I
This
know,
is in judgment.
regardless, whatever the context. Who is doing the deceiving there? Your Lord.
The prophet. No, the prophet deceives.
It says here very clearly. Yeah, I know.
And
First,
so God
no,
is
no.
giving back.
By the way, the
God
prophet, it
says-
says here, and if the prophet be deceived, that means if the prophet is deceived, it doesn't say the prophet is the deceiver, saying if the prophet is be deceived and speak a word, I, the Lord, have deceived that prophet. So even if you go by your agreement, by your understanding, that the prophet is deceiving, he's the deceiver.
Yeah.
No problem. But the second deception is done by whom?
And God is giving back the judgment.
No. Why did you use the word
according-
judgment instead of deceive?
Because
Why?
God
Why
is
are you?
taking-
Why are you? Why are you saying?
God-
Why are you saying? Why didn't you use the term deceive here for God?
Because I'm telling you, God.
Why did you change it like the Pharisees do?
Don't change it.
I keep
No,
saying
don't
it.
change it.
So read it as it is.
So God will always visit back to us.
No,
our
read it
sins.
as it is without
That's why
changing it.
God says, "Forgive us our
Okay,
trespasses as we forgive
let's go
those
to
who do
Jeremiah
whatever we do."
27. Can you read
So
it? Jeremiah 27.
27.
So in that God deceives
Yeah.
the prophet who is deceived, and then he punishes that deceiver.
So he punishes him. With
Yeah, but he
deception.
also
So
deceives
He
him
will take away
very
from
clearly.
that prophet.
The Lord, have deceived that prophet.
Yes, the prophet has started the deceit. That's what you got to remember. It's like
I know,
somebody
but
who
then-
kills. If somebody goes out and kills,
Yes.
and then God kills them, it's not God that started the killing.
But we're not talking
it's
about.
God that's
We're talking
visited
about
their own
what is the
sin.
definition of deceive once again?
It's God that's
What is the definition of deceive?
God has visited their own sin on them.
What is the definition of deceive in this context?
You had it in
this context.
In this context, God is giving the judgment against the person, using what they done wrong against them.
Okay, so something which is not true. Yes.
Yeah.
He's saying the opposite of that, which is deception,
God is punishing
causing
that
someone,
person in the way they sinned.
to believe
would you want?
the falsehood.
Go to Jeremiah 27.
Jeremiah.
Yeah, there's
chapter-
loads. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to give you 10 verse.
Oh well, hang on, because I'm supposed to be answering him some questions now, and you're still giving me all the
Yeah,
questions.
we are showing you because you said God will not deceive.
So no, we said
No,
about
we can
God
discuss,
dying.
that's fine.
We started about God dying, and we want to stay on that because I want to still
No,
understand.
look. If you want to
why
believe
you
your God
say
dies, that's up
Allah-
to you. I've already
yeah,
answered.
but why is Allah not strong enough to overcome death?
Actually, Allah doesn't die. That is strong enough already.
Why is your God
Your God,
strong
you're
enough
saying your
not
God
to-
needs to die
not
to become
protect
strong.
the Messiah? Why is your God not strong enough to protect the Messiah? My God is.
Because the Messiah has come for a reason to give up his life.
Why did
Jesus
the Father-
said, I give up my life. I
No,
spill out
Messiah
my
is
blood
the one
for
who
your
is king.
sins.
Not
No,
we already
in the Bible it says
Okay.
that Jesus, when he broke the bread and gave the cup, he said, "This is my blood which will be poured out for your sins." God is doing it for our benefit. Throughout the Bible, God does things for our benefit.
Really? So
Yeah.
for your benefit, why did the Father not die? Why did he have to send the Son?
Because it's the Trinity. So the Father.
Yeah, it's a Trinity. They're co-equal, right?
the
So the
Son-
Father could have come, become a
Yeah,
man,
the Father
and died
could
for
have.
you. But he never did that. He sent his Son.
And he could have sent the Holy Spirit. Who
No,
knows?
but
he sent the
no,
Son.
no.
He
Based
sent
on
the
your
Son.
speculation,
Because it says
based on your speculation,
Not
the Father.
speculation
It
in
is
the Bible.
speculation. Nowhere in the
No, no,
Bible
no.
it says the Father can become a man. It's your speculation.
no. This is your hypothetical question about the
It's
Father
not.
becoming.
I'm saying, look.
You're saying, can the Father die? And that's
No,
hypothetical.
my question was-
because we don't get that anywhere in the Bible.
If the Father
So
can
if
die,
we're
he
gonna
never
go on
says that in the Bible. So it's a speculation.
So if we're going to go on that, it doesn't say it in the Bible. You
It
can't
does
ask-
say
You can't
in the
ask that
Father.
question.
It says very clearly in 1 Timothy 6:16 that he alone is immortal regarding the Father. So I'm substantiating with a passage from the Bible. You, sir, are speculating.
No.
That
You're
God
speculating
the
with
Father can
question.
die. Okay.
Because
No
nowhere
problem.
in the Bible, as
Okay.
you said, nowhere in the Bible does it say
So,
the Father
so
can
can you
die.
answer the question?
So you are asking
Why
me
does
a
the Father?
question
Why
now,
does the
not
Father?
based on
Why
on
does the
Bible.
Father need a son to
So
die for you?
You asked me a question not based on the Bible.
Which
and that-
question?
Can the Father die?
Yes.
So that's not based on
But
the
I
Bible
answered,
because it's
it
not
is
in there.
actually.
It's not in there.
Which question is not there?
And then
Wait, which
when
question
I
is
go
not there?
to that, when I go to answer that, you then say, you're
Wins.
speculating.
Which question is not there?
The Father dying. Can
So-
the Father-
so you-
So you said, why doesn't
Okay,
the Father
you want
die?
the answers in the Bible or you want the questions in the Bible?
You said, why does the Father not die?
Yes.
Yes, so that's not in the Bible.
Good.
So you've asked me a question. So I cannot give you an answer from the Bible because the Bible doesn't say the
Good.
Father died.
The Father-
So when I give you that answer, you then say, I'm speculating.
No,
I'm
no,
not. I'm
no.
answering your
You
question.
misunderstood. You speculated about the bit where he said the Father can die if he wanted to. That's
The Father
speculation.
is the Trinity, co-equal.
Yes,
The co-equal Trinity. So whatever one can
but
do,
they are not
they
co-equal.
can do.
One
They
can
are.
die, the other can't die.
Oh yeah, anytime. So do you know? It's not one of your ones you've.
Are you?
No, I don't know him.
Are you a Christian Muslim?
I'm a Christian.
You're a Christian. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any time. If he's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, earlier you said that the Father does not worship anyone. In Hebrews 1, it says that the
Hebrews
Father-
1:8.
Yeah.
Read Hebrews 1:9. And by the way, that's not about worship. I know which one you're referring to.
No, he calls the Son God.
Okay, so you actually believe the Father worships the Son.
Yes.
Do you believe that, Vince? The Father worships the Son. Do you believe that?
The community of the Trinity is a community of love. So they all equally adore.
I didn't
each
ask you if
other.
he loves him. Why do you always do this? Are you
Because
seriously?
I'm explaining
No,
your
please,
answer.
please, with all due respect.
Look.
When I asked about worship, you went to love. You went to love.
They-
Does he worship the Son in any context?
That they all worship each other, if you want to use that term. Yes. Yes.
So who's God?
That they are the Trinity.
Wait. Jesus worships the Father. The Father never worships the Son. And that passage you brought up, he's using the term God loosely. Do you know that Satan is called also God in the Bible? Do you know that? In 2 Corinthians 4:4. So just because God uses the term God, the term God can be used for men, for angels,
Yeah, and
for
that is a
false gods,
yeah.
for Satan. So just because he uses this term,
just because-
by the way, the term in Hebrews 1:8, which you're appealing to here, is of authority. Okay? So when you give authority to Moses, he was called Elohim to the Pharaoh. Remember? Exodus 7:1.
Yeah, but in this context, this is referencing a psalm which is
Not of worship. That is not a God of worship. Okay, read Hebrews 1:9 now.
Read 9.
you have loved righteousness and hated lawlessness. Therefore, God, your God, has anointed you with your
Absolutely. Therefore, God, your God.
Yeah.
Does God have a God?
I showed you that.
Wait.
Amos
Does God have a God?
1:3.
Yes.
Amos
And
1.
God has God.
Do you believe God has a God?
Amos 1:3. I've showed you it earlier.
So you both believe God has a... You guys are polytheists, man.
Well,
Wallahi. You're polytheists.
Let me get it for you.
If you think God has a God and there is only one God, then you're believing in two gods. And one of the gods is lower than the other if he worships the other God. The one who is the ultimate
Why do we
authority
need to subscribe
is
to that view?
the Father. So if the Father is worshipping anyone, then he's not even ultimate authority.
So let me give you what the prophets say.
Alhamdulillah,
Prophets-
ala ni'matul Islam. You know, we don't have these issues.
He's going to go away because this is what the prophets say in the Bible.
Yeah, go on.
This is Amos 4:11. I overthrew some of you as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and you was as a brand plucked from the burning. Yet you did not return to me, declares Yahweh, the one true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Says the Lord, but that's who the Lord is.
So how
Yahweh.
many gods are in that context?
God, one God. There's
No,
always
in
one
that
God.
context, there's only one God.
One God.
Okay, so which God?
And Yahweh is a member of that God. He's a member of the Trinity.
Yahweh is a member. He's not the Trinity?
He's the Trinity, yeah. Sorry,
Okay, so once again,
member's the wrong word.
you know when you say member, you're talking about
Yeah,
persons.
yeah.
Okay,
Member's
good.
the
So
wrong word.
Yahweh, who's the one raining fire from the heavens?
Yahweh calls down fire and brimstone from Yahweh and heaven.
And who is the first Yahweh?
Yahweh.
So how many Yahwehs are there?
Yahweh is God.
How many Yahwehs are there?
Yahweh is
in
God.
that sense,
So in the way that they say, in this
Two
sentence,
Yahwehs.
in this sentence, there's one Yahweh. In Genesis 19, there's two Yahwehs.
So you believe in two
Obadiah-
Yahwehs?
Obadiah- no.
remember earlier he said Yahweh is not a person. It's not a member. Yahweh is only God, which means the Trinity. Now he's saying in Genesis there's two Yahwehs.
Why do we have to subscribe?
You can't win with this, guys.
Why do we have to subscribe to your view of how
Who
many
said you have
Yahwehs?
to subscribe? You'll be a Muslim if you subscribe to my view. The reason you are polytheist is because you subscribe to
So
a
that
false
was my-
religion where you worship more than one God. Even though you claim it is one God, and by the way, the Hindus also, many of them claim one God. But when you actually break it down, when you analyze it, you realize they are all polytheists.
So why doesn't
And that's the
Allah,
reason Allah
hold it,
will only
hold it.
accept
Why
one
doesn't-
religion,
why
which is
doesn't Allah,
Islam.
Why does Allah say
Why
the
doesn't he accept
closest
Judaism?
to
One
the
at a
Muslims,
time, one at a time.
the closest to the Muslims are the Christians, not the Jews and the polytheists. So he distinguishes the polytheists; they're separate over there. He accepts the Christians.
He also
are
distinguishes the
closest-
Jews.
Hold it. He also says that the Christians are closest to Muslims.
Yeah.
If we're polytheists and that's the worst
Because
sin
you're
of
not
shirk,
arrogant like them.
why
That's what the Quran identifies.
why
They weep
why
at
does
night
God
and pray to God.
say we are
Not showing
closest?
arrogance.
Yeah.
And we're polytheists. That's the worst.
Good
That's
question.
the worst shirk.
Good question. No problem.
We're
Do you want to come here,
polytheists
Mansoor?
according to
Maybe you can answer it. So, good question. One of the things that is close is that they are not arrogant like the Jews, because you know the Jews also believe, based on the Talmud, that God comes in a council, and they tell God what to do. They reject what God tells them. They have the right to do that. The rabbis have a right to reject God. Okay, God's teaching as well. The Christians, there's another reason I think Christians are closer to us. Okay? Do the Christians reject Jesus as a prophet and messenger? I know you believe he's a God, but besides that, you also believe he's a prophet and a Messiah, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So you, like the Muslims, accept him as a prophet and a Messiah. Jews reject two prophets. They reject Jesus and they reject Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Christians reject one, which is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Yeah.
Yes? So you guys are obviously closer to us in that sense. Does that answer your question?
Well, not fully, because
Which part did you not answer?
You're still saying that the polytheism is shirk.
Polytheism,
it's
look,
the worst
Allah
sin.
says-
It's to put partners against
It is,
Allah.
it is.
So it's the worst sin.
Yeah.
So we are worse than the Jews who don't put partners
No,
against Allah.
The Jews You're talking
They don't
about
put
no,
partners in
you're not talking about here. Here the thing is, polytheism or shirk is in many forms. For example, when the rabbis they take their priests, when the Jews take the rabbis as God besides Allah, then that is shirk. When the Christians take Jesus Christ, who is a Messiah, as a God besides Allah, then that is called shirk as well. The Muslims are the only ones who claim that there is no partner to Allah, which is what rejects shirk. So, when you say the term La ilaha, that's negation of all gods worthy of worship. And then we say illallah, except Allah.
So how can a polytheist be close to you?
You polytheists will go to, doesn't matter what.
Allah says, Allah's
Let's
praising.
answer this question from the Quran
Yeah,
itself.
Allah's
right?
praising
Look,
Christians.
By the way,
In that verse.
the only people who will go to paradise are the Muslims. Nobody else.
And the hadith says that it will be on the backs of Christians and
let's-
Jews.
no,
So
no, no.
human
No.
sacrifice.
We'll come to that.
Let's read the
Alright,
Quran
I'll
first.
We'll come
read
to
that
that.
one next.
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
read Quran
No
first.
problem.
ليسوا سواء. Right? من أهل الكتاب أمة قائمة يتلون آيات الله آناء الليل وهم يسجدون يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويسارعون في الخيرات وأولئك من الصالحين. Right.
Which chapter and verse is that?
Surah
So you're going to have to be in English, obviously.
Chapter
Surah
5?
Al-Imran, Surah number 3,
Oh, sorry, chapter 3. Yeah.
113.
Maida is 5. Yeah.
Not all of them are alike. ليسوا سواء. Not all of you are alike.
So chapter 3, verse
113.
So,
Yep.
1.
so go again. Not all of you.
A party of the people, some of them, min ahl al-kitab, some of them, what they do, of these people is stand at night. They recite the verses of God during the hours of night, prostrating
Which is the Quran.
themselves in prayer. So even there are Christians when the Quran
But
was
this is
revealed.
not the verse that I've mentioned.
We'll come back to that. The Quran talks about here, not all Christians are alike. So some of those Christians will stand at night praying, weeping to God. Okay? They will command what is good, forbid what is wrong. That's what the next verse is saying. They command what is good, they forbid what is wrong, and they hasten to do good works. Okay? They are the ones who are righteous. So those people, Quran says, they are very close to you because this is the unity in purpose, unity in function, unity in objectives, similar kind of things. You can similar kind of mindset can come together. That's why even in secular world, people with a similar kind of mindsets, they work together, whether in politics, whether in economy and so on. Quran says this is why some people, you can be close to them. So when the Quran...
Why are there not
in the
Jews who are like that? Because there would be some pious Jews who would fit into that category. But the
Wish.
Quran... No polytheists,
The Quran
only Christians.
got your question.
And it doesn't
Quran
divide
highlights
Christians like you
because
are.
it could have been historically that all Christians have been like put under the bus, but it's not the case. The question about Jews are not here. The Quran reprimands many Jews for what have they done. Killed their prophets, didn't do what they're commanded to do, but it doesn't mean everyone's the same. The principle is the same. Not
In the
everyone's
verse I
alike.
mentioned. And
Not everyone's the same.
Okay,
My
maybe
friend
he
here
wants
wants
the
to-
explanation of the words that he mentioned, so maybe let's
What-
bring that.
what
hold
is-
it. No, hold
yeah.
it. My friend here wants to come in with a question.
No, no,
Just
let's
before
go
he
back
does,
to the
can I
Quran.
just-
Before we go-
I'm on the Quran. I'm
Go
on
ahead.
the Quran and Hadith.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that the Christians are not sacrificed for the Muslims. This is Hadith Sahih Muslim.
so have you done with that
27
one now?
Well, no, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's about
Okay.
who's good and who's not. So Sahih Muslim 2767. The day will come out amongst the Muslims on the day of resurrection, when Muslims on the day of resurrection with heavy sins as a mountain, and Allah would forgive them, and would place in their stead the Jews and Christians.
What is
So
the,
we're going to be sacrificed.
No. What is the context there? Day of resurrection.
The day of
So
resurrection.
on the day of resurrection, hear me out, yeah?
So in their place, yeah.
Hear me out. Before you go there, we have to take from the context. On the day of resurrection, what happens? Allah is going to judge. Yes, He's going to judge the Muslims and the non-Muslims. So when He judges the Muslims will be, given their judgment.
With sins as heavy as a mountain.
Whereas the Christians and Jews at that point have already been destined for hell. You know why? Because of their shirk against Allah, which I explained to you just a few minutes ago. Hear me out. No, we'll come to the end. I know, we'll come to the end, don't worry. Okay? So now, we know that they've already been destined to hell, and the credit for that goes to themselves. So by their own sins and by their own shirk, they've been destined for hellfire.
Okay.
Now you're talking about the sin that's been put on them from the Muslims, yes?
Yeah.
There are many Muslims who are misguided because of you missionaries, yes? Because of you Christians. And they are getting the sin because you misled them. So this is one way the scholars explain, like why their sins are put on this Christians. One thing you need to notice is that the Christians have already been destined for hell. So you're not going to hell because of the Muslims, you're going to hell because of your shirk. Secondly, the sins of the Muslims are put on you because you guys were the ones who misled them. The sins will now come back on you. It will visit you.
You earlier
let me
accused me. Hold on.
let me put that in proper context.
Earlier, you
Before
accused
you
me
go
of
on,
reading a lot.
before you go on,
There's nothing of that in this hadith.
This is what's that?
You accused me.
This is
of
resurrection,
reading
day
it.
of resurrection.
The day of resurrection.
So if you read
that's
other
it.
hadiths
have
about day of
you
resurrection,
looked into all the hadith on this
exactly.
chapter?
No,
right,
no.
that's the issue. The Quranic Islamic understanding is this: for every human being, there are two places allocated in hereafter. Yep. A place, a seat in heaven or a seat in hell, right?
Yeah.
Every human being. Now, Muslims, obviously, they will go to heaven. What happens to their seat? That is going to be occupied by someone else. Now, what happens to someone who goes to hell? Their seat in heaven is going to be occupied by who? By someone who's going to go to heaven. So a Muslim's place, for example, his place in hellfire is going to be taken by those non-Muslims who go to hell and they misled others because of their own sin. So their sins, which they misled, the example Hashim gave, right? So imagine now you as a missionary, you misled 100 million people, right? What's going to happen is, these 100 million people, their sins you're going to carry. So the seeds of these people, if they're going to go to hell, it's you're going to take that position of hellfire, the seed, because of the sins that you have done by misleading them.
It talks about Muslims with heavy sins as a mountain.
Yeah.
So this is your sin.
So
you
Muslims,
commit a sin.
let's take out Muslims. Muslims,
the cause of that is your misleading.
That from?
Like I said,
So Muslims, any Muslim who sins.
okay, let me ask you something. Do you think, according to Islam, anyone other than Muslims will go to heaven or paradise?
According to Islam, I don't
Yes.
know.
According to Islam, the only accepted religion, and this is in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, where it says Islam is, the only accepted religion with Allah is Al-Islam, which means that all disbelievers, and by the way, this is again, I'm speaking it's speaking in the sense that in a general sense, because Allah is the ultimate judge, but Allah says the only one religion which is accepted by Allah is Al-Islam, not Christianity, not Judaism, not Hinduism, not Taoism, or all the other
Let's
isms.
clarify his question about the Muslims, right?
Yeah.
Muslims. Allah says in the Quran that He does not burden a soul more than he can bear, and you can't have someone else guilty for your crime.
That's what I
Everyone
understand,
is
yeah.
responsible. So a Muslim who does sin, for their sins, they may be punished in hellfire for eons, but eternity has no end, right? But they eventually will return to heaven. Every Muslim eventually will return to heaven, even if they went to hellfire for their cleansing of the sins that they had, right? Some will be forgiven.
Yeah, I think it's
Are you listening? Are you listening?
Yeah.
You learn, right? You can have your turn, but this conversation also will help you. So, some Muslims may have been forgiven by God, but the sins that God would never forgive, even if a Muslim did, is the sin of associating partners with God.
It's a shirk,
right? Yeah. He's making noise, just as the Quran says. When the Quran is recited, make noise so that people don't overcome this. Quran is being proven true very right minute, but anyway, that's the reality of things. Okay, so what happens to that Muslim? This Muslim, if he's going to heaven, his seat in hellfire is going to be taken too. It's going to be given to those. Yep, it's a substitution to those who because you already deserve for your own sin hell.
Okay.
Right.
Someone who deserves hell. Someone who deserves hell should go to hell. No doubt about that.
Let me explain.
Why should somebody else then?
Let me explain.
Surely,
You
always say.
I think he already explained that to you.
We are saying you for your sin, you're going to go to hell, right?
The reason
But
you're going
you
to hell
also-
is not because of the Muslims.
So listen,
For your
You're
own
going to
sin.
hell based on your own merit.
Yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
to hell
Yes.
because I've done wrong. Fine.
Because you
Why should a
rejected Allah and the Rasul.
why should a Muslim with sins as heavy as a mountain now have those sins put on me? I'm already going
No.
for what I've done.
That sin that Muslims had, which deserves hellfire,
You are the
is
cause.
because the cause of you is you. You are the ones misled.
No, you
So
personally.
you are going to be punished for that.
The
Yeah,
ones
but it
who-
doesn't say that.
Not you personally, but if you did
It
that.
doesn't say
No, it does
Because
say
you've only
the
read
one-
one hadith. You have to read all the chapters of the hadith, and there are tons of articles in the internet explaining that. And somehow,
So you know, this
don't
is
know
by the
anything
way,
about
this
it.
is a general principle in Islam that if I do a good deed, for example, if I
Just going to
he wants to be in the camera, I think.
Oh, right.
There's a fee for that, you know that.
Yeah.
Make sure you donate to
Make
that.
sure you get-
donate
charge you an
to,
appearance
yeah,
fee.
we accept cash, no problem. How much you got?
Later.
No, now, because it's on camera. Otherwise, you come later. Okay, so just kidding, yeah, guys. What I'm saying is that look, in Islam, there's a principle like if someone does good because of you,
Article of
yes,
Bassam.
then you get the goodness of that. But if somebody does an evil because of you, then you get the evil of that as well.
So if somebody does good because of me, they get a reward in heaven, yes, and I get a reward in heaven.
No. We are
So-
talking in the world. So
Okay,
for the
so-
non-Muslims, your reward will be in this world. In the akhirah, you got nothing.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
matter how much good you do.
So I've
Even
done-
if you donated millions of dollars in charity, which is good, which is a
Yeah,
good
but
thing.
I've done good.
But
I've
whatever
done good.
whatever good you do, because the greatest sin is rejecting Allah, and that is the greatest sin because you associate partners with Allah by saying Jesus is God.
Okay, but what when you
So it
just
doesn't
said,
matter what good you do,
I've done
in the
good,
akhirah is nothing for you
right,
because
I've
you'll
done
be.
good by bringing somebody else to good. Okay. Do we?
Wait, what do you mean somebody else
You
to
said
good?
that. You said.
If you do good, or if you teach someone to do good,
Yes.
then you get the reward for that.
So
but
did
for
that person get it who I've taught? Did they
yeah, of
also
course,
get
you
it?
both get.
So we
without
both get the
diminishing,
reward.
without
We both
diminishing.
get
Yeah.
the reward.
However,
Why doesn't it work the opposite way? That when I commit a sin and that person commits a sin, we both pay for
you
that
both
sin?
get.
No,
No. When you
because
commit
their
a sin,
weight- the weight of those
if you
sins
mislead,
is down on me.
if you lead that person into sin, then you're the cause, right?
No.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
So because you
there,
caused him to sin, yes,
Yes.
then you both get the sin.
both get the sin.
Yes.
So,
But if
so
you
when
do,
he comes with his sin, the heaven's mountains.
oh my God, you see. Look, did you
you
understand the first part which I told you?
Yeah. So,
Okay. Now, if you understood the first part, that you're going to hell on your own merit.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Which means
Got
no
that.
Muslims are involved in that.
right.
No
okay.
Muslims. So Allah
But in
is.
this hadith,
wait a
you're
minute.
saying it's
On the
where
day of
I've
judgment.
misled Muslims.
That hadith is about the day of resurrection,
Yeah.
which is the day of judgment. Why do you think Allah has destined you for hell already? Let's see if you understood that.
So if I mislead a Muslim,
No.
let's stick on
That
the
is the
point.
second part.
No, because you're jumping all around. If I mislead a Muslim, I'm going to pay for that because it's my sin. But you're saying the Muslim that's been misled won't pay for it.
That's the second
His
part.
sins will go on me.
Yeah.
But if it's the opposite way around and I do good and lead someone to good, I will get the benefit of that. And also the person I've done the good for will get the benefit of
Yeah.
that.
So let me explain
it's-
that.
It's very
Let me explain to
uneven.
you. You missed the most important part, which was the first part of that hadith. The context is on the day of resurrection. On the day of resurrection, what does Allah do? Allah judges between the Muslims and the non-Muslims. Okay? So the non-Muslims who deliberately reject Allah and deliberately commit shirk, knowing that Allah is the only true God. Yes, you understood that, but you still rejected Allah. Then you are going to hellfire for that. It is not because of the sins of the Muslims put on you. Are you with me?
You will have an
I don't think
additional
it was even listening.
Yeah,
additional.
I was
The
listening.
more
totally.
people you mislead, the more sin you're going to get, and more
That's
punishment
the
you're going to
bit
get.
I don't understand because if
So
I
did
do
you understand
good,
the first-
we both share it. If I do bad,
But good, you have nothing there in the hereafter because you have
Right,
been
my friend,
doomed.
to ask the
Look,
question.
a Christian who did not accept Islam, as we've explained, God only accepts Islam. And if you rejected that, all your good works is going to be nothing.
Yeah.
It's
gonna
null
be
and
nothing.
void.
It's null
On
and
the day of
void.
judgment.
we agree with that.
Right.
But
That's
we
why.
say the same,
That's why.
Good work.
Doesn't
for
matter
that,
whatever
doing
good
it
you've
twofold.
done in the day of judgment. You've already
So
sealed
your
your
goodness
fate.
will be rewarded in this world.
Yeah.
No.
If God wills, your goodness, whatever good you do, so if you've done charity work or something like that, or you taught someone something, something good, whatever good you deserved, Allah will grant you that goodness in this world, but in the hereafter, which is where you really need your good rewards, you will get nothing in the hereafter. If you die upon shirk,
That's the gamble
if you
you're
die
taking.
upon it,
That's the gamble you're making.
You lost me a bit there, I've got to be honest.
because you're still
You
stuck
said,
with that.
no, because you said if
Okay.
Allah will grant you good
my
in
friend,
this.
watch it when you go home.
You don't
because-
get anything in the hereafter if you die as a non.
Yeah, so okay, I can accept that. That's what it's
So all your good,
What you just
your good can
if
be
Allah will,
rewarded here.
for your good works in this world, He can give you good.
So you need to
get nothing
you need
on
to
the
distinguish between Muslim and non-Muslim here. That is a key that you're missing. So for a Muslim, if he does something good and another Muslim follows him in that goodness, then or even another non-Muslim follows him in the goodness.
Not a Christian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the key you were missing.
So
Now you understand?
on the sin side of it,
Yeah.
it is the Christian that's going to take the weight of that sins of a mountain.
Yeah, that is because you were the cause of those sins. Are you with me now?
Well, that's what you're saying, but I can't see that anywhere in the
You
hadith.
keep
That's because
repeating
we
the
got
same
You're
thing.
saying
that's because we got so many
hadith.
hadiths, and you need to take the body of the hadiths to understand it.
Strange. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I'm going to
Okay, next.